6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Yesterday was a big day as Pete Hegseth faced his confirmation hearing in the U.S. Senate. It continues with Pam Bondi, John Ratcliffe, Sean Duffy, Marco Rubio, Chris Wright, and Russell Vogt today. To give us the latest update, Jon Decker, White House Correspondent. Good morning, John. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for joining us early.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So big day, the eyes of the nation yesterday upon at least the Pete Hegseth confirmation, but it continues today. So give us an update of what happened yesterday and what we expect to see in the coming days.
Well, I think it could be considered to be a good day if you're Pete Hegseth in terms of what happened yesterday. Yes, he got some tough questions, as he should, for any person who's going to lead the Pentagon. But what he also got at the end of the day was a commitment from Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth as the next Secretary of Defense. She had been on the fence. Now that she has indicated that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth, I think he has an easy go of it in terms of winning Senate confirmation.
Any Republicans we're hearing from that would vote no?
No, I have not heard of any Republican who will vote no. That being said, I think that you have to look to two Republicans in particular to see what they may do. That's Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine. But even if both of those senators vote against Pete Hegseth, he still, if every other Republican sticks together, he still would have enough votes to win support to be the next Secretary of Defense.
Talking with Jon Decker, White House Correspondent, on the cabinet hearings that are now taking place in Washington, D.C. So it continues today. Who are we going to see today in front of committee hearings?
Well, I don't think we'll see anything as contentious as yesterday. I think that Marco Rubio, who is Donald Trump's choice to be the next Secretary of State, he'll have an easy go of it. In fact, I think he's going to get a number of Democrats to support his nomination to be the next Secretary of State. He, of course, is going to be having that confirmation hearing, getting questions from his former colleagues. And, of course, Senator Rubio has served in the Senate for quite some time. Also likely having an easy go of it in terms of winning confirmation is Pam Bondi to be the next Attorney General of the United States. That's not to say that she'll get Democratic support, although she may. It is to say that no Republican is going to vote against her nomination to lead the Department of Justice. And those are two very important positions in the next Trump administration.
Talking with Jon Decker, White House Correspondent. Now, Colorado's own Chris Wright for Secretary of Energy, I believe, is facing his confirmation hearing today. Any concerns you're hearing about Chris Wright?
No, I think he'll win the backing of every Republican. Remember, in the Senate, Republicans have a 53-47 advantage. And that means if Republicans remain unified on any of these nominees, that's enough to win Senate confirmation without any support from Senate Democrats.
Talking with Jon Decker, White House Correspondent, giving us the latest on these committee hearings with regards to Donald Trump's cabinet nominees. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Giving us an update.
Thank you. Have a great day. Talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Jon Decker. So, yeah, Chris Wright is up today. Colorado's own. This guy is fantastic. I've gotten to know Chris. He's spoken at some of our events before. Brilliant. He put together a whole documentary on nuclear energy, which I think is going to be the future of energy development in America, especially with regards to all the AI.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of power to run those servers, and oil and gas and coal and wind and solar just isn't going to be able to provide it. So nuclear is the future. I think he's smart enough to do it. So
I'm curious to see how he comes through, and I'm curious to see how they push him on some of the green energy positions, because if we are, as you outlined, going to start having a large surge in manufacturing and AI here, that is going to take energy. And nuclear is a wonderful option, but might take a little bit longer to get online than something like solar panels or wind or geothermal. And so is he open to that type of supplementation. The other thing for me that, we've been talking about this on the show for quite a while, is for me, America growing its green energy is giving the finger to the Saudis. We are no longer beholden to OPEC. We become independent of all other energy constraints, and that is a priority for me. I am tired over my life seeing the manipulation and the control that the Saudis and the rest of OPEC hold over us because of oil. We do a good job with oil. We've got a great trading partner of the North, and it's fantastic what we've been able to do, and we can be mostly self-sufficient, but some of that supplement needs to come from green. And if we can decouple ourselves from the international OPEC market and their market manipulation, we can actually become the manipulators at times. We can go in and spend that money and decide when we want to give and take. And that gives us more of a power player position. I'm so tired because there are too many times we've acquiesced to the Saudis and OPEC based on oil numbers. And to me, that's vitally important. I'm not talking about shutting down our oil and gas industry. I'm talking about making sure America's strong because we can produce enough supplemental energy through green that we're going to be just fine with the oil and gas that we can import from our allies and the stuff that we can produce ourselves. I think that's an admirable goal. I'm worried about the fact that he will denigrate or want to reduce that green energy because I'm not certain we can get there necessarily with nuclear. If he has a plan for it for nuclear, I'm open. I'm open to the conversation. Would love to hear the plans because, again, as long as it gets me to where I want to be, I'm okay with it. I'm okay for a different path if we need to.
It's 6:07, and what you just heard with regards to OPEC was Bill being America first. Way to go, Bill!
I have my moments, and thank you for pointing that out. I have my moments. Yes, I do. I do.
Check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hump Day, Wednesday. What a day on Tuesday. We're going to talk about it right now. And that and more. 17 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 47. Our top story.
Oh,
that had to be the greatest post on X on Tuesday. 4 women,
funny?
Top right, top left, top right. Bottom left, bottom right, just grilling Hegseth with his face in the middle, just staring at them. Here, let's listen to it again. I don't know, Jeff. I don't know where to find it on X, but it is.
No, it's on my account. If you go to x.com,
is it? Okay, good.
Hunt. Yeah, scroll down a little bit, and you'll see it about 15 hours ago.
So beautiful. Pocahontas was in there. I mean, honestly, that thing is just gold. It's like 11 seconds.
I sat there watching that video and others, just being like, the men who have to go home to these women each night.
Hey, and I was also saying that about some of the male senators, which I'm going to play in just a second. I know their wives hate them too. Confirmation hearings continue on Capitol Hill today as senators question more of DJT's cabinet picks. First up is Pam Bondi, Trump's pick for Attorney General and former Attorney General for Florida. Bondi defended Trump during his first impeachment and supported his claims of election fraud. Another Florida politician, as Jeff and Billy just talked about, with the correspondent, Senator Marco Rubio is up for Secretary of State. Tuesday literally was a clown show of lefty senators in the Pete Hegseth confirmation hearing.
What's the largest number of people you've ever supervised or had in an organization in your career?
Not 3 million. Senator.
No, I don't expect that. Very few people have ever had that experience, but how many? It's a straight up question.
I think we had over 100 full-time staff at Concerned Vets for America, roughly, with thousands of volunteers.
So 100 people.
I was also a headquarters company commander, which would have been
that's fine.
a couple of hundred. Nothing remotely near the size of the Defense Department. Right. I would acknowledge that.
Actually, Senator. Not remotely near even a medium-sized company in America, let alone a big company in America, especially a major corporation. And we're hiring you to be the CEO of one of the most complex, largest organizations in the world.
That's the unlikable Senator Gary Blowhard Peters from Michigan. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen counters.
But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see. But in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that.
And then there's that was great. Here's Maisie Hirano from Hawaii.
I have read multiple reports of your regularly being drunk at work, including by people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
So if you're going to talk about not being drunk, shouldn't you sound like you're not drunk? Man, listen to Maisie, right? Am I right, Jeff?
That's Senator from Hawaii, man.
She sounds drunk. I'm just cracking up because I'm listening to it in the car, and she sounded drunk. Here's the rest of it.
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do you
News
know that
run directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to
is
the dozens of men and women at
not
Fox News
contemplated?
Channel
And
who I work
hearing,
with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record.
question.
Do you know that
The Greenland part of that too, where
Yeah.
she's like, "Are you going to invade Greenland?"
Yes, I cut that part off. That was great. Are you going to invade Greenland? Oh man, this chick, she is so gone. All right, I'll go on with the rest of it. Speaking of hot air, high winds, warm air forecasted this morning in Southern California. The death toll from the LA fires has risen to at least 25. An additional death was linked to the Palisades fire, which has now claimed 9 lives. Another 16 deaths have been attributed to the Eaton fire. Denver Mayor Johnston has vetoed a proposal to change the city's needle exchange guidelines. City Council voted Monday to lift a cap on the number of needle exchange sites in Denver. The measure also removed a requirement to keep the sites at least 1,000 feet from schools and licensed daycare facilities. Johnston vetoed the measure Tuesday, telling the council it was the wrong solution at the wrong time.
Please make me governor. That's what that veto was about.
Yeah, is that what it was about?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't about needles on the streets
Or in front of schools or
and just
daycares or anything
throwing
like
the
that.
drug culture.
Right. No,
Yeah.
he just knows
What
that
are we
that
talking
can't
about?
sell statewide.
I would hope not.
Right.
No, you're right. That's a good point, though. Yeah, I do the right thing. That one, gee, man, it's 2025. We got needle sites all over the place. State Rep Jenny Wilford is suing Lyft following an alleged sexual assault that happened last year. Wilford announced the lawsuit at the state capitol on Tuesday. Wilford claims she booked a ride using the rideshare app last February and was sexually assaulted by the driver. The lawsuit also names Shanu Transportation, a registered state transportation company. She claims the company allowed the driver to illegally use an account tied to one of their vehicles. The North Glen Police Department is still investigating the case, and no arrests have been
That is
announced.
terrible.
Oh, it's horrific.
I
I was worried about when this all started, when this came out, 7, 8 years ago?
yeah, Lyft and
Stuff
Uber.
like that. Yeah. But I mean, thankfully we don't see it a lot, but man, that is horrible.
Oh, gosh. Well, I hope she gets justice on this.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. President Biden gives his farewell address to the nation in prime time tonight. Teleprompter watch, 6:00 this evening. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission is suing Elon Musk. The SEC filed the lawsuit against Musk on Tuesday, alleging the tech billionaire broke the law in 2022 by failing to disclose his active stake in Twitter, which allowed him to buy shares at artificially low prices. They need to look into the Pelosi's, I think. A private space company has just launched a mission to the moon. A Falcon 9 rocket blasted off overnight from the Kennedy Space Center carrying the Blue Ghost lunar lander from the Texas company Firefly Aerospace. All right, never before heard audio on Alex Jones last night, former executive director of the DNC and close associate of LBJ. Wow. Clifton Carter admitting that LBJ hired Mac Wallace to assassinate JFK. 63. This recording was made in 1972. A Texan named Shane Stevens was given these audio tapes by his grandfather, who was one of the men in the conversation.
Sure good to see you. How's life treating you today? Well, Saul, it's been pretty touch and go situation. Linda and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal with that he hired Mike Wallace to assassinate the president.
He hired Mike Wallace, one of his minions in the back, to assassinate JFK. So you're going to hear a lot more about that, you would think. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Nuggets run past the Mavericks 118-99, and the Avs beat the Rangers 3-2. 16 in Englewood, 13 in Golden, 17 in Denver. It's Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue.
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not in order.
Order.
Point of order.
Order.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Weather for the next 2.5 days. Take advantage of it because the
Jeff
coldest
and
air
Bill
of the
Show.
season will
Joining
be
us
here
now,
by the
Rory
weekend.
O'Neill, NBC
Partly cloudy
News
skies,
National
temperatures will be well
Correspondent.
into
The
the 40s
FBI has
today.
released new information about the New Year's Day attack that took place in New Orleans. Rory, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Well, good morning, guys.
So what are we learning? What's the new information?
Yeah, it's just incremental, I guess, is the best way to describe it. The FBI now saying that 57 people were injured in that attack that happened in the first hours of New Year's Day on Bourbon Street. That the count had been 35, but now they say 57 were wounded, 14 people were killed, plus the gunman who was shot and killed in an exchange of gunfire with police. So they also said that really they started to track the suspect's radicalization to 2022. That's when they say he became a more devout Muslim and then started to isolate himself from friends, family, or society in general, and then really seemed to go off the deep end in the spring of last year.
Talking to Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, with regards to the latest news on the New Year's Day attack that took place in New Orleans. Rory, I've heard that he was also traveling. He had taken some trips, I believe, to Chicago and other places like that. Do you know any information on that?
He'd gone to Cairo and also Ontario, Canada, plus multiple trips to New Orleans before carrying out the attack. Apparently, according to the FBI, he had looked into possibly renting a room on Bourbon Street that had a balcony. So that's maybe he was planning something like the Las Vegas attack. He had made multiple trips. I think one time he took the train from Houston to New Orleans, then came back by bus later that same day, and was also may have been more inspired by that Christmas market attack in Germany that happened 10 days before. Apparently, he had done some online searching about the car that was used in that very similar attack.
Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, joining Jeff and Bill live. We are talking about new information that has been released about the New Orleans New Year's Day attacker that drove a car into a large group of people, killing 14, injuring 57, as Rory just outlined for us. And one of the words you just used, I want to go back and talk about. What do we know now about the idea of the attacker? Was he instructed or was he inspired by his radicalization? Do we have any clue of, was it an instruction by a terrorist outfit or was he just inspired by what they like to do?
Right, and that's a significant distinction because it might determine how our U.S. military responds. Right, if we know that he was instructed by ISIS to carry this out, because remember, this white rented pickup truck had an ISIS flagpole on the back. So was he instructed or just inspired by? And it seems to be just inspired by. Now, of course, what happens is the FBI has now got a record of some of the websites he was watching. And viewing was the word I was looking for, and reading and seeing videos on these websites. So now that gives them another data point where they can say, well, who else is looking at these videos? Where are they coming from? Is it from inside the U.S.? And are these red flags that we need to closely monitor as people that might try to pull off some sort of a copycat crime? Because these are very hard to try to police, these lone wolf attacks. I mean, it's just one guy renting a car. Doesn't really raise a lot of red flags.
Talking to Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent. Do we know anything about those particular trips to Ontario and Cairo? Did he meet with anybody? Yeah. Any insights there?
Well, the Cairo one was interesting because he spent about a month there, which obviously, that's more than just going to go see the pyramids, right? So you have to figure he was meeting with someone over there. Whether or not they were connected to this attack, have any terrorism connections, that's what they're trying to figure out. But of course, now you're in a different country, different rules. You may not be able to have the same kind of data collection expertise that you might have here in the States. So it's a bit more complicated. I think that's going to take a lot more legwork as they try to recreate his time there in Egypt.
Talking to Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, the barriers, and were they being repaired? Why weren't they up? Is there any latest news on the barriers that should have protected a car driving down Bourbon Street?
Yeah, they didn't give an update specifically on that part of the investigation. And obviously there are changes being made to the system now before we get to the Super Bowl. But clearly it appears there was a design flaw. Even operating properly, those barriers only would have stopped a car on Bourbon Street. As the police superintendent said, he defeated our system so clever by driving up on the sidewalk. I mean, didn't really take much to get around a pretty flawed design, apparently. So they're rethinking all of the access points to the whole French Quarter and the best ways to keep people safe and still allow and follow some of the laws when it comes to having physical access. Those so that a wheelchair could fit down there, but stop a pickup truck.
Talking to Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, on the latest regarding the New Year's Day attack that took place in New Orleans. Rory, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show this morning.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
I love having Jon Decker and Rory on. These guys really are great. Cool. Really appreciate their expertise. Really These are national correspondents that take time to join the Jeff and Bill Show, provide us the latest on all that.
So. Yeah, and we always get a little more information, and they get to do all the little homeworky things that we're doing other stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of nice.
Try.
Yeah,
we try. This is new to me because I've been in politics, not on the radio side, and the amount of reading.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
Trying to stay up on top of all the news.
It's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Exactly.
And the problem is people always talk about the idea of in this type of job, when are you off or when do you stop working? And you don't because you're always absorbing stuff. And for 24 hours a day absorb stuff. And it could be the biggest thing or it could be the most minor thing. It could be, honestly, a conversation you hear between two people that stand behind you at the grocery store that is like, sparks something that they're talking about. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. Or I didn't know they were talking about this. You're always looking for this information. It is really crazy.
You're reading 148-page special counsel reports.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of fun, too.
On the same day, twice.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I'm working my way through the Jack Smith. That's hard. I just don't have the time right now. It's going to take me a couple of weeks to get through that only because I don't have any time right now. It's tough, but it's fun.
Well, I appreciate Jon Decker, Rory O'Neill joining us. All right, so we're going to get to the Pete Hegseth hearing. Would you vote to confirm as Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth after hearing yesterday? What do you think? Give us a call. Phone lines are open. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. This is an easy one for me. Yes check the box. Bill?
No way. There's no way. And it's less political than it is based on skill set. He hasn't run anything this large. It's the largest bureaucracy in America, one of the farthest reaching and largest bureaucracies on the planet. He doesn't have anything close to experience doing this. And I'll talk to you about how when we get back, how if some large corporations made a similar move, we would think the board is either drunk or trying to tank the company. But however, everything in politics is different. It doesn't mean he can't get the votes, doesn't mean he can't be confirmed, doesn't mean he can't have the job. But it also doesn't mean he's qualified.
Well, I think he is the perfect man at this moment to lead the Department of Defense, but we want you to join the conversation. Phone lines open, 303-696-1971. The Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Speaking of Dan Caplis, I love this guy. He's pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. He's with us on the values. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case sends a message to everybody else involved in the case about your values as well. You want a solid guy like Dan Caplis. He's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than just being a great guy, that matters. But more than that, he's a real winner in the courtroom. Listen to this. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. In fact, Dan Caplis is so trusted that he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So chances are you're not on the side of the road going, oh, this is when I need to call Dan right now. Luckily, I can hear his phone number. But when that car accident happens, do you really want to be Googling Dan Caplis Law at that point to try to get his phone number? No, just put it in your contacts. So it's right there. And when you're having to deal with law enforcement, God forbid, paramedics, maybe somebody in your family's hurt. Now you got insurance companies, other injured parties. Call Dan immediately. Okay. Get him on your team. Here's his phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Would you vote to confirm?
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Pete Hegseth is being praised for his performance during his confirmation hearing where Democrats continued their smear campaign. Hegseth, who's been tapped to be the Secretary of Defense, scoring points for his intelligence, experience, and poise under pressure. Watch.
Stories would come out, and people would reach out to me and say, I've spoken to this reporter about who you really are, and I was willing to go on the record. But they didn't print my quote. They didn't print any of my quotes. Or I've worked with you for 10 years, or I was your accountant, or I was your chief operating officer, or I was your board member, or I was with you on 100 different tour stops for Concerned Veterans for America. No one called me. No one asked about your conduct on the record or off the record. Instead, a small handful of anonymous sources were allowed to drive a smear campaign, an agenda about me, because our left-wing media in America today, sadly, doesn't care about the truth. All they were out to do, Mr. Chairman, was to destroy me. And why do they want to destroy me? Because I'm a change agent and a threat to them, because Donald Trump was willing to choose me, to empower me, to bring the Defense Department back to what it really should be, which is warfighting.
In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Is Pete Hegseth going to improve military operations? Get the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Space Force organized and directed in the right direction, or is he going to harm people because his lack of managing big organizations like the Department of Defense? Well, here's his opening remarks yesterday.
Now, it is true and has been acknowledged that I don't have a similar biography to defense secretaries of the last 30 years. But as President Trump also told me, we've repeatedly placed people atop the Pentagon with supposedly the right credentials, whether they are retired generals, academics, or defense contractor executives. And where has it gotten us? He believes, and I humbly agree, that it's time to give someone with dust on his boots the helm. A change agent, someone with no vested interest in certain companies or specific programs or approved narratives. My only special interest is the warfighter.
Bill, do you think he's going to hurt people?
I think that was a stupid answer. And yeah, he can get people hurt. It's a dumb answer there because he talked about the idea and admitted. I appreciate the fact that he admits that he doesn't have what we would consider regular qualifications. He pretty much in that answer says, no, I don't have the typical qualifications you'd have for this job. It's great. I appreciate you admitting that you are underqualified to take this position. And then he goes into the idea of I'm not part of any program or anything else. Yeah, you are. Yeah. You want the anti-woke. You want the no women in combat, no trans, throw them all out. That is a program. The inclusion is a program, but getting rid of them is also a program. Shedding all of those people and moving them out of combat is a program. Yes, you are. You are part of that. And you are part of taking what you believe politically in part and directing it towards the military. Yes, you've been open about that. 32 days ago on a podcast, Pete Hegseth said directly, women should not be in combat. Somehow that changed yesterday. That was weird. There was a senator that pushed him on that. The idea of this miraculous conversion inside of 30 days. And he had no answer as to why the conversion had taken place. Yeah, he sits there and says that our military is no good at what it can do. Really? I hear all the time that we have assembled the largest, most ready, most lethal, most technologically advanced fighting force this world has ever seen. Yet now when Pete Hegseth wants to be Secretary of Defense, we suck. We couldn't even take over Belgium if we wanted to, which is remarkable, given that our future commander-in-chief has suggested we invade two allies. That's weird. So why in the world would Donald Trump float the idea of using our military in Panama and possibly even in Greenland? He said he wouldn't commit to it, but he wouldn't not commit to it. Why would he do that? If our men and women in uniform are so wokety woke and are so bad at executing a fighting force and mission, yet we can go to Panama and Greenland, wouldn't Panama just kick our ass if we're really this bad? Wouldn't they just come out and show us a bunch of LGBTQ flags and tell us it was a parade and we'd all line up? And isn't that the idea? See, this is why Pete Hegseth is going to get us involved in more conflicts. He's going to get us involved in more wars. He doesn't understand the position. He has no diplomatic experience. He doesn't understand that he is the point of contact for our enemies and our allies. He is way over his head. And could the people underneath him support him enough and keep him treading water so that he doesn't do major damage to our military? Yes, I do have that much faith in our men and women in uniform as far as the support system. And I'm pretty certain that most of our listeners have been in a situation professionally where they've had to support an idiot. You've had to do all the back end work so that the company, the goals are still met, even though the person above you giving all the direction has no idea what they're talking about. And that's what I heard yesterday. He's way underqualified.
I would give maybe a little bit of credence to those critiques if it wasn't for the last 4 years and the disastrous leadership of our military under the Biden administration, which picked, quote, qualified people to run the biggest bureaucracy. For instance, can you give me a single general that faced any type of discipline over the botched Afghanistan withdrawal and the 13 Marines that died in that terrible situation. Our military is facing very serious problems. And the quote professionals that have been running this for the last, 15, 20 years, primarily under Obama's leadership, have weakened our military. And I don't trust the critique that we need to have somebody that can run a big bureaucracy. I want to see change. I want somebody with dust on their boots. I want somebody that knows how to load a gun and fire it and has been on the front lines and knows what the fighters are going forward through. And we'll get to this audio in a bit, but no, I just don't think that those critiques can stand after what we have gone through for the last 4 years. Under the Biden administration.
I would submit that all the generals know exactly how to load a gun. I would submit that the generals have more experience executing military strategy and plans than Pete Hegseth does. I would submit they have more large-scale knowledge on what our allies need from us as far as around the world. They have more practical experience with it. Now, I understand the critique about, the military and what happened in Afghanistan. I thought that was a failure of the Biden administration, not a failure nor indictment of our military. Are you saying that our military was wrong, that the men and women in uniform failed in the withdrawal from Afghanistan? Because I don't. I put the failure on the Biden administration. Bad planning, bad ideas, bad execution. And that, to me, is an example of just what I was talking about. The strong men and women in uniform having to support an idiotic plan. It was stupid. And I know there was some pushback as far as how we were closing bases inside the military. And there was some pushback about the idea of leaving only one choke point as far as pulling everybody out. I know I've heard some pushback as far as the order of pulling people out as well. But the commander-in-chief gets to make the decisions. And Biden made a piss poor decision. And the people underneath him, bad decisions.
And you don't put any of that on the Secretary of Defense?
No, not necessarily, because I believe,
really?
Yeah, because I believe they were executing what they were told to do. I would have to be shown that they made the choice that
Joe Biden,
to do.
This guy can't string a sentence together. Was actually had any thought on what those plans were with regards to withdrawal. But here is the line that I thought summed up why the American people want Donald Trump in the presidency and they want Pete Hegseth in the Department of Defense.
Oh, this will be interesting.
Because everybody in this room knows if you're a rifleman and you lose your rifle, they're throwing the book at you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a general who loses a war, you get a promotion. That's not going to happen in Donald Trump's Pentagon. There will be real standards for success. Everyone from the top, from the most senior general to the most lowly private, will ensure that they're treated fairly, men and women, inside that system.
The American people are tired of the failures that they saw in Afghanistan, the fact that nobody was held accountable for that, and then all the wokeness that's being pushed through our military that's weakening the military. These professional bureaucrats are weakening our country, and they need to be held accountable. And I want a fresh face, somebody that's been on the front lines like Pete Hegseth, and I thought that audio captured it perfectly.
Yeah, that was a pile of crap. Just a phenomenal pile of crap. It just was.
Who was held accountable? Which generals were held accountable?
This is what I'm asking. He's saying nobody was held accountable. It was all me and the rank and file are always taking the bullets, and we're always okay. Let's see. With Donald Trump, let's see. His lawyers have gone to jail. He didn't. His CFO went to prison for fraud. He didn't. His advisors have been disbarred and are facing criminal punishment. Not him. Not him at all. So we have a laundry list of times and instances in which everybody below Donald Trump was held accountable, not him. And now Pete is like, no, we can't possibly do that. Dude, that is the MO of the guy you're saying you're there to represent. And then he goes on this really stupid thing about we're going to hold people accountable and we're going to judge you based on individuals. No, he's not. He's already decided that all women can't do this. He's already decided that all trans people can't do this. He's already decided that all gay people can't do this. He's not judging anybody based on individual characteristics or qualifications. He's taking a look at your sex, your creed, your color, your religion, your sexual orientation, and deciding what you're capable of. He is phenomenally full of crap. Can we vote to convict him? Sure. Vote to make sure confirm him? Sure, absolutely. Doesn't mean he's not full of crap.
Yesterday, he said it's going to be a single standard for everybody. That's what the American people want. That is anti-woke. That is meritocracy. And he committed to that during the committee hearings. I want to hear from you all. Join the conversation. Would you vote to support Pete Hegseth as the new Secretary of Defense? Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. Dan Kaplan's Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Come on, call in. Tell me exactly why I'm wrong.
All right, it's that time of the morning where Bill and I take a little break from debating existential questions to have a little fun with You Choose the News.
Yes, a little bit of ridiculousness as to your morning commute or getting ready for the office. It's what we call You Choose the News, everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. We have spent mere moments scouring the interwebs to find really dumb stories about us humans, and then I've given them even dumber headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why would we possibly do this on this serious show? Because nobody in charge has any idea that we're doing this. This is what happens when Jeff and I are left unsupervised. Yes, a painful lesson that both of our parents learned in high school, but that's just stories for other days. Okay, alrighty, gentlemen. Blake Olson joining us from the newsroom, and Jeff in the studio. Here are your choices this morning, gentlemen. Headline number 1, to protect and deliver. Headline number 2, well, Jeff and Bill obviously disagree. Headline number 3, accuracy is for suckers. And headline number 4, but we want it too. Mr. Hunt, your choice,
Start
sir.
with the accuracy is for suckers.
Yeah, accuracy is for suckers. Why would you believe what's on the package? German court has banned a supermarket from selling Dubai chocolate, primarily because it's not from Dubai. It seems to be a bit of an issue. The court in the western city of Cologne ruled that the discount supermarket of Aldi could no longer sell its Allen Dubai handmade chocolate, since the product in question actually is manufactured in Turkey. They're not really even close. Aldi argued that it was made clear on the reverse side of the label. And the court said, when you call it Dubai chocolate on the front in big letters and assume someone's going to turn it over on the back and look for the little tiny letters that say Turkey, maybe they're not necessarily being honest. But then again, Aldi does talk about most of the stuff in that thing being food, and that's questionable in and of itself. So who knows? Yeah, who knows?
True.
Yes. Alrighty. Blake Olson in the news department. Your choice, sir, to protect and deliver. Jeff and Bill obviously disagree, but we want it too.
Jeff and Bill obviously disagree.
Jeff and Bill obviously disagree on this one. There are very few moments in this show's history that have become as controversial as when we decided to debate whether or not you put pineapple on pizza. Yes. And finally, a Canadian chef is taking a stand. He is putting his flag down in the ground. It's an old pizzeria that started out for a number of years, and he says it reaches back, for decades, and he's finally going to have an answer to whether or not we should put pineapple on top of the pizza. It actually started in the 1960s. A person created what he and his brother/partner in crime dubbed the Hawaiian pizza. It was a breach of Italian culinary protocol, according to some.
Yes, it was.
Others said it was a new, wonderful culinary delight that will echo with happiness and joy throughout the ages. Well, some 6 decades later, since that very first abomination was created, that's a personal opinion, the pizzeria in Norwich, England, has now nailed their colors to the mast and introducing a pineapple pizza for the very first time to their delivery menu.
No.
Good for
Yes,
them.
but you got to pay a little more for it.
Yeah.
Blasphemy.
$122 for the pineapple pizza.
Oh,
A usual Napoli meatball pepperoni. The other ones go for about $17. And on the menu, they say, well, order it. Get the champagne too. Go on, you filthy monster. So, yes. the chef says, he says no to pineapple. He says there's no way pineapple should ever be on pizza, but if you want it, we'll make it. You just got to pay for it. Yeah. I like that. So it's still
awesome.
making me hungry right now. I love that. Little thin crust with the ham and all that. It's delicious.
Warm pineapple is just...
No.
it's so
I can't
bad.
eat mushrooms, but maybe
Mushrooms
you
are
guys
the
can.
best. Oh, mushrooms are
hate
fantastic.
mushrooms. I hate mushrooms.
Mushrooms are wonderful. Best pizza on the planet, mushroom pepperoni. Simple, elegant. Works so well.
That
so
ruins
well
the
together.
pepperoni. What are you talking about?
No, mushrooms are wonderful.
Oh, that's gross.
How about
Mushrooms should
jalapenos?
never be on
Onions,
pizza.
green peppers.
I can do some of those, but you got to mix them up. I can't just do jalapenos. And jalapenos and pepperoni season. Jalapeno,
Bacon.
there's got to be a
That's
thing.
it.
Oh, this is the
Bacon.
take the chicken and do it with the bacon. The chicken and bacon.
Yes,
That's
yes,
next
that's
level.
good.
Okay, here we go. We're running out of time, gentlemen. And our last choice, to protect and deliver, but we want it too.
We want it too.
Yes, but we want it too. The looming ban on TikTok is going to be just for the pores. Yes, the U.S. State Department has said that employees responsible for public diplomacy are exempt from the upcoming rule about the tickety talks. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says, well, see, the problem is that, TikTok, they're going to be able to influence some of our politics and they're going to be able to talk to us, but we want to use the tickety talks to talk to the Chinese people and influence their politics. So yes, directly they're saying the Bureau of Global Public Policy Affairs will recognize the substantial opportunity of being able to influence China and other people in the Asian Pacific Rim by reaching out through TikTok. So yes, we want to be able to do the thing we're accusing of them doing because it's better for us. Ta-da!
I want TikTok to be saved. Can we figure this out, guys? Come on.
I don't think so.
All
right, back to you, sir.
So we'll continue our debate on Pete Hegseth. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader. We are 710 KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, January 15th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hot takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're heading to work in the greatest country in history. Let's get after it. We got a whole hour planned for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, we'll continue with the Pete Hegseth hearing coverage. What did you think of it? Would you vote to support him? What about these Democrats concerned that we may be invading Greenland and Panama, and asking Pete Hegseth about that? Plus, his married life. Was it fair to bring that up during the committee hearings, especially when senators are casting a lot of stones while living in glass houses? What do you think about that? We'll get into all of that a little bit later in the show. Representative Larry Suckla is going to be joining us. They are flying in the Canadian Wolves into Eagle Airport, up into Steamboat as well, trying to hide it, but some enterprising journalists are staying on top of it. We'll be covering the invasion of the Canadian Wolves into Colorado, thanks to our ballot initiative a few years that brought that upon us. And then we're going to hear from a candidate for state party chair, Darcy Schoening, who currently serves as the director of special projects. She's in Dave Williams' inner circle. She's going to join us in the 9 o'clock hour because she wants to be the new state party chair. What does this mean about Dave Williams? In his own inner circles looking around. Wow.
Does this give us any insight on his potential decision or potential rebellion? Because is this something that she is trying to affect change that he wasn't doing? Or does she know something behind the scenes about Dave taking his professional career in a different direction? What does she know?
Yeah, exactly. So she'll be joining us in the 9 o'clock hour. So lots of news coverage and news making taking place on the Jeff and Bill show this morning. You're not going to want to miss it. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. Here we go. 16 clear in Denver, but it's going to be a beautiful day out there. 47 degrees. Get that sunshine, blue skies. It's going to feel like 55. Our top story, NBC White House correspondent Jon Decker on with Jeff and Billy last hour, talking about Pete Hegseth with support after his hearing.
What he also got at the end of the day was a commitment from Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth as the next Secretary of Defense. She had been on the fence. Now that she has indicated that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth, I think he has an easy go of it in terms of winning Senate confirmation.
Joni Ernst has been on defense with defense. Sorry, I thought that was good. More confirmation hearings today for DJT's cabinet picks. First up is Florida AG Pam Bondi, Trump's pick for U.S. Attorney General. Bondi defended Trump during his first impeachment. Another Florida politician, Senator Marco Rubio, is up for Secretary of State. Hey, back to Hegseth for a second. Senator Tim Kaine.
You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared? How is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Hey, folks. Tim Kaine here.
Second gentleman, Doug Emhoff here.
We are in Annandale, Virginia, where the Biden-Harris campaign just opened the first coordinated campaign office in Virginia.
And we are going to, win this election. Senator Kaine is going to go back to the Senate, and we're all going to do this thing together.
Yep, the guy who loves the Clintons ran with Hillary and endorsed Doug Emhoff.
I mean, and we saw the other day that Hunter Biden had spent something like $700,000 on payments to various women, adult entertainment. I think it was 1.6 million withdrawn from ATMs for crack cocaine.
Right.
So could you pull up the audio of Tim Kaine criticizing that?
Yeah.
You had just
No. And what happened? So he endorsed Emhoff, And Emhoff, didn't he impregnate his nanny and rough her up, allegedly?
I don't know if he impregnated her, but I think they did.
I think so.
Slap.
I think so. I think
No, I don't think Emhoff did not father a child outside of wedlock. He
Okay.
the allegation is that he slapped her, I believe.
Okay, he roughed her up. And that story died. It's so weird.
Yeah,
That
and the weird
story
thing is that
didn't-
Hunter's not being confirmed for anything either. That's weird. That's strange.
Just send him out to do
Yeah, he's
business
just a
deals on
loser.
behalf of the big guy.
Yeah, exactly.
As a private citizen. Okay.
That is
Okay. Kushner, party of two. Okay. We can talk about it.
Used him for leverage. High winds are in the forecast as LA firefighters continue battling the devastating fires that have killed at least 25 people. Wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour might be seen or felt in the mountains this morning, with gusts up to 50 miles per hour on the coast. Red flag warnings are in effect through the area until this afternoon. Biden administration is removing Cuba from its list of state sponsors of terrorism. They only do communism there, I guess. A White House official said Tuesday that they do not have information that supports Cuba's designation as a sponsor of terrorism. The move comes as President Biden prepares to leave office. Biden will give his farewell address to the nation tonight. The Republican-led House passed a bill Tuesday that would ban transgender athletes from playing women's and girls' sports in schools that get federal funding. The Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act passed mainly along party lines with only 2 Democrats in support. The bill will now head to the GOP-controlled Senate. Tech giant Meta is making changes to its workforce. The company is planning to push out thousands of workers deemed low performers starting in February. The decision is expected to impact roughly 5% of the company's workforce, about 3,600 employees. Private U.S. space company has just launched a mission to the moon. A Falcon 9 rocket blasted off overnight from the Kennedy Space Center carrying Blue Ghost lunar lander from Texas, the Texas company Firefly Aerospace. Let's see, never before heard audio on Alex Jones last night, former executive director of the DNC and close associate of LBJ, Clifton Carter, admitting that LBJ hired Mac Wallace to assassinate JFK. This recording was made in 1972, and a Texan named Shane Stevens was given these audio tapes by his grandfather, who was one of the men in the conversation.
Sure good to see you. How's life treating you today? Well, Saul, it's been a pretty touch and go situation. Linda and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal with that he hired Mike Wallace to assassinate the president. It's been hectic in every way, but we've lived through this far. I guess we'll continue to do so.
Was it Mac Wallace, one of them, who assassinated JFK? Unbelievable when you listen to that. 14 in Parker, 13 in Arvada, 16 in Denver. It's Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue. Got some dueling banjos every morning with Jeff and Billy. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Fair weather for the next 2.5 days. Take advantage of it because the coldest air of the season will be here by the weekend. Partly cloudy skies. Temperatures will be well into the 40s today. Tomorrow we bump all the way into the 50s, but it's very brief. Highs on Friday will be back into the 40s. That happens early in the day. Plunging temperatures Friday night with a chance of snow developing. Periods of light snow only in the teens Saturday. Near or below zero with flurries Saturday night. Flurries and bitterly cold Sunday and Monday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, Billy, we kicked off the text messages here. We got some new ones. 3881. You texted in before.
Hey, good
Billy, very insightful comments on Pete Hegseth this morning. Sounds like you have extensive military experience. What rank did you attain before you got out?
No. I've been very, very open and honest about this one. I'm not wired for the military. I have so much respect for those individuals that raise their hand and give their mind, body, and soul to our nation. I'm not wired that way. You want to get down and dirty. You need someone that's going to, get in the mix with you in a parking lot outside a bar. I'm right there with you, man. I have a severe authority problem, and I would not survive more than like 6 months because I get kicked out of class in school. I showed Jeff this picture from a soccer team I was on in my teens.
You look like a thug.
Yes, in a soccer team, and I'm the only one in the picture that doesn't have a shirt on. And the reason is because I was getting ready and I'm trying to get my uniform on, and the coach is yelling at me, "Get over here!" And I'm like, "Give me a second, I'll get over here now." Fine, stood up without the shirt on. Yeah, that would have been punishment in the military. So that's why I know this about myself. But
they're saying 3881 that there's a difference between stating your concerns and speaking as if you have firsthand professional knowledge.
No, I'm not.
They said they have spent 22 years in the military, deployed several times. They've experienced a severe decline in standards and the loss of unit cohesion when women were introduced into combat units.
Okay, so the idea being you've lost some cohesion, is that more on the military and the procedure? Or is it more on the individual men in the system? Because couldn't we say the same thing when you allow women into co-ed education systems? Could we say the same thing when we allow women to own property or when you allow women into the office space? That was part of the pushback that we had back then, that when women were going to get into the office space, men couldn't be men anymore. We couldn't be manly in the office. That was part of the push. Is that really the responsibility and because of the women, or is it the lack of adaptability to change? Because there's some other very, very strong fighting forces that use women in combat roles, one of which involved in armed combat right now, Israel. It's weird that they're our gallant allies and we're supporting them. And we're looking at how they're taking it to Hamas. They don't seem to have a problem with it, but yet we can't figure it out.
8422 saying, what I heard Pete Hegseth saying concerning women in the military is that standard for qualifications have been lowered so they can achieve success. This automatically lowers the quality and readiness of our military. If a man can't pass the qualifications for infantry or special operations, he is dropped. Currently, for females, the qualifications to pass are lowered to fill a quota. You wouldn't support quotas, would you?
No, but I disagree with the idea that it's lowered to support a quota. I disagree. It is now, again, are we saying that we're going to hold the men and the women to the same standards? Is that it that we're expecting them to perform at the same level? If so, I got a real question about why we are banning transgendered athletes in sports. If we're holding everybody to the same standard and say that the women need to compete on the same level as men, that's what I'm hearing. Then
for combat?
No, but
that's different than competing in a sport.
No, I'm talking about competition, and I'm talking about standards. And what we're talking about is in women's sports that the men have an artificial advantage based on biology that I agree with. Men have that advantage. And so the idea is they compete at a different level in sports, and that's not what we need to allow. Yet in the military, we have to do exactly the opposite and have them compete on an exactly neutral playing field.
Yeah,
if you believe that if you believe in the military, no, they're not necessarily. Yeah. When you're talking about achievement,
combat and sports are the same.
What I'm talking about, hang on a sec. Killing someone is not, but qualifications to the idea of where you're going to be able to achieve, they're going to be different for both biologies. Yes, absolutely they are. And if you want to hold one consistent line inside the military, then I believe to be intellectually consistent, you need to hold that same line inside of sports.
Yeah, no, I totally disagree. So
because didn't you talk about the idea about how much women can lift or the text here, how much women can do? That is an athletic and from physical.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're totally different. The idea of women playing sports and the fairness of women being able to compete and the safety related to women being able to compete in sports versus being out there on a combat field, fighting for your life and knowing that the person next to you has passed all the qualifications necessary to drag you once you've been shot and injured to safety are just totally different scenarios to me.
Yeah. The thing is that I think you're being transitory based on your standards, because in one case, you're saying that the physical matters 110% and the other, the physical doesn't matter.
Oh,
and
I think the physical matters both.
But we should be consistent. If we're going to hold them equal inside of our military, then why can't we hold them as equals inside of sports? Why would we have a different set of rules?
It's not fair.
Not fair where?
When a man slams a volleyball into a woman's face and breaks her nose because he's so much stronger than her or can run faster in a track, all that stuff, no, it takes away women's opportunities in sports. And then in combat, where you have to rely on the person next to you that has passed all the same stringent requirements that you for your life and safety and well-being. Those are just totally different scenarios to me. The idea that we would conflate them, it's just wild.
Yeah, I understand. But the idea being that the person standing next to you inside of that team situation, and you're in a female situation, the person, if you had a transgender male next to you, their physical capabilities might keep you safer, might have you be able to affect what you're trying to do with the offense or the defense. It would be an advantage. Same thing. That's it. I'm just looking for intellectual consistency.
Do you agree with me or Bill? Give us a call.
Just looking for intellectual consistency on this.
696-1971 or text us on the Dan Campos Law text line at 720-819-5115. 720-819-5115. Text messages are pouring in. Those come right into the studio, by the way. And Janet would like to point out that you just called me transitory.
Nicely done, Janice. Nicely done. I appreciate that.
Here is funny. By the way, who made a ton of news yesterday was this senator from Hawaii, not Iowa, Hawaii.
Oh, geez, she's a mess.
She was concerned about Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump invading Greenland.
Moving on. President-elect has attacked our allies in recent weeks, refusing to rule out using military force to take over Greenland and the Panama Canal, and threatening to make Canada the 51st state. Would you carry out an order from President Trump to seize Greenland, a territory of our NATO ally Denmark, by force, or would you comply with an order to take over the Panama Canal?
Senator, I will emphasize that President Trump received 77 million votes to be the lawful commander-in-chief of this country.
We're not talking about the election. My question is, would you use our military to take over Greenland or an ally of Denmark?
Senator, one of the things that President Trump is so good at is never strategically tipping his hand. And so I would never in this public forum give one way or another direct what orders the president would give me in any context.
That sounds to me that you would contemplate carrying out such an order to basically invade Greenland and take over the Panama Canal.
Look, I know there could be some tough talk around some of these negotiations. I don't think there's any stomach at all from the American people to invade Greenland.
But Donald wants it.
He wants it. The idea that we're going to get into an extended battle with the people of Denmark and Greenland, I don't see that happening.
Oh.
I mean, that we were so far into fantasy land at that point.
Yeah. Then why, when asked the question, doesn't Donald Trump or any of his representatives say, no, we're not talking about having a military conflict with one of our NATO allies?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I know it seems pretty simple to me to put that up there.
And so,
but the idea that the American people want that.
But the idea is,
it's just kind of crazy.
But I don't.
Or that the senator from Hawaii thinks that that's going to happen.
But does it matter what the American people want? Because in the past election, in the previous election cycle,
it does.
Does it? Because hang on a sec.
That's who we're inaugurating in a week.
Well, let's talk about that, because during the election cycle, dude didn't mention anything about Greenland nor about Panama. Now, when he gets elected, all of a sudden they become important. Huh. But no one in the American people during the election was complaining about it, asking about it, pushing for it. There were no questions during any press briefings about it. There was nothing inside of a debate about it. There wasn't a single thing. We didn't have any protests about, we got to have Panama Canal back. None of that. And now all of a sudden it's cropped up. So is he necessarily listening to what the American people want, or is he listening to what Donald Trump wants? And if he's listening to what Donald Trump wants, I think it's a fair question. And I think it's also a fair question to ask why he can't very simply say no. It would be silly to use military force against one of our allies. That is ridiculous. We're talking about this and this. It is also equally as ridiculous that Hegseth can't say, no, we wouldn't use military force against blah, blah, blah. He basically says, I will execute Donald Trump's wishes.
No, he says we're not going to tip our hands on all this stuff. But the idea that
tip our hands, why does it matter?
It's
why
so
can't you say
outlandish from progressives to think that it's going to be a military takeover of Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal with all the other challenges we face on the global stage. I think you could have a fair critique that Pete Hegseth could have been a little bit more clear that that's not going to happen. But the idea that this is bouncing around in that senator's head, that she's concerned that the United States is going to invade Canada.
But that's what Donald Trump started with. And not invade Canada, but it's the idea of Greenland and Panama.
And
he's
talked about invading
he's the one.
Greenland.
He is the one. No, he has. He's talked about the idea that maybe it would have to come to military force. And then he demurred on either side. And that's why I have your critique on Hegseth. That is, in my mind, a fairly dumb question. And Hegseth should have said, that is a very dumb question and ridiculous on its face, because no, the U.S. military is not going to invade any of our allies. This is silly. And I'm sorry you felt you had to waste time on that question. That's how you answer the question. That puts a point in it, and it makes her look like a fool. And now she does look like a fool even in that question still, but Hegseth also gets a little bit of tomfoolery all over himself, because he can't be that direct and say, no, we would not use military force in order to invade an ally of us. That is silly. I can't believe that you wasted your time asking that question. That's the response to that question, not the oral gas that Hegseth passed.
Would you vote for Pete Hegseth after what you heard yesterday? And then we're going to get into Tim Kaine and Senator Mullins' response here in a bit. But after that back and forth, do you look at Pete Hegseth and go, yes, this is the man to lead the Department of Defense as Secretary of Defense? I do. I love the fact that he's a warrior. I love the fact he's got dirt on his boots. And I say we need a change there, because under the last 4 years, you had the DC establishment putting in the people that are qualified to run big bureaucracies. And what you saw was a weakening of the American fighting force. You saw the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. You saw problems in our military. I mean, these folks are willing to threaten the future and strength of the United States of America to drive political agendas. I want a warrior first leader as the Secretary of Defense, and I saw that with Pete Hegseth.
Yeah,
Bill disagrees.
Yeah, and I want to know from the callers, what am I missing? You think that Pete is this great guy that's going to change, and he's going to basically, change and make sure that our military fighting force is the best the world has ever seen? I thought we were already there. What change is Pete going to do? Where is the idea that we are this weak, horrible military that's going to get pushed over by anyone? What am I missing? Well, I feel that he is vastly unqualified for this job. You feel differently, call in. I mean, I want to hear what I'm missing. I am open to the idea. I've been talking about that before. I years ago felt that transgendered athletes should participate in sports, to kind of close the circle here. Now, I am not in favor of transgendered males playing in sports. Not in favor of that at all. And I understand it. So I am willing to change my mind, despite what everybody says sometimes in the text that I'm dogmatic and unwilling to say that I'm wrong at times. I am. You've got the opportunity. Call in. Convince me I'm wrong.
Phone number 303-696-1971. The text line blowing up on this one, 720-819-5115. This is the only show in Colorado where you are invited to be a part of the conversation. So please give us your opinion. Look, it's just not normal, the pain caused from chronic joint pain day after day. But some of you have dealt with that pain for so long, it's become your new normal. Short-term fixes are not working, so make the decision now to say, no, you're not going to live with it. Get moving again in 2025 with help from QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in what's called regenerative medicine and joint preservation. So what does this mean? Joel in our office has had his life changed by QC Kinetics. What they do is they draw out a little bit of blood, spin it, get to that plasma that has very powerful healing properties. They inject that back into the joints. It goes to work. It's literally your own body going to work to support and heal your body. Okay. So yes, you can revitalize your joints with advanced ortho biological treatments at QC Kinetics. Best of all, no steroids, no drugs, no surgery. This is the future of medicine. Using an array of natural solutions like PRP to attack the pain from arthritis. Tens of thousands of people with pain have discovered these cellular treatments and are living life again without that constant pain in their joints. Want to learn more about how you can refresh your joints, get lasting relief with these amazing treatments? Call QC Kinetics for a free consultation. Deal with joint pain now so you can make the most of the new year. Call QC Kinetics. Here's their phone number. Are you ready? 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986 with locations in Aurora, Superior, Highlands Ranch, and the Springs. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump is praising the governor of Florida after Ron DeSantis signed a proclamation calling a special session shortly after Trump takes the White House to approve funding to help with Trump's mass deportation plan. Trump taking to social media to say, "Thank you, Ron. Hopefully other governors will follow." In the proclamation, DeSantis outlines how Biden's open border policies have allowed a record-setting number of illegals in the country, impacting Americans and posing a threat to public safety. Governor DeSantis saying Florida will support Trump and will have sufficient resources to do so.
State and local officials in Florida must help the Trump administration enforce our nation's immigration laws. And we are going to need, in order to do that effectively, we are going to need legislation to impose additional duties on local officials and provide funding for those local officials. There also needs to be measures to hold people accountable who are violating our anti-sanctuary policies. And then Florida needs to make sure that we don't have any lingering incentives for people to come into our state illegally. So therefore, I'm going to call the legislature into special session starting the week of January 27th.
In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
Hey, now, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I do need to correct something I said earlier in the hour that Emhoff did not get the nanny pregnant. There are reports out there that he did, but she did not keep the baby. And so that's where I was incorrect because I hadn't heard about the other baby. I'd known about the previous marriage kid, and since it wasn't there, I made the incorrect. I did not remember that she did get pregnant and then didn't keep the baby. And that's my mistake. And I forgot that. And I appreciate the text messenger that very kindly did point that out to me. Sometimes you say it with naughty words and anger, and that's okay too. I will admit that I'm wrong in that situation as well. I just appreciate how they expressed it to me. And yes, again, for all you people that say, I never admit that I'm wrong. Yeah, I was wrong about it.
Wrong on a minute by minute basis.
God, we each have 4 kids. Yes, we are wrong daily.
No, we apologize regularly.
So I'm sorry. I got that wrong.
Text messages coming in. Andrew saying, I love the show, guys, but I agree with Bill. This is about qualifications. Okay, so I get it. On paper, Lloyd Austin, the current Secretary of Defense, is totally qualifies. 12th Commander of CENTCOM, the United States Central Command, 33rd Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, Commander of the United States Forces in Iraq. He served on the boards of Raytheon. Holy cow, this guy is a force in the defense world. Okay, but look, the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, focusing on trying to root out right-wing extremism out of the military. The fact that I don't think we've been able to advance much in Ukraine year after year. Restrictions that they put on Israel. The fact the guy disappeared for like 2 days. Didn't even notify his boss of where he was. Okay, I am not happy with the state of our military. And so putting qualified guys in there on paper isn't working. I love this exchange with Pete Hegseth and the U.S. Senator from Montana, Sheehy, yesterday.
What is the diameter of the rifle round fired out of an M4A1 rifle?
That's a 5.56.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 5 sets of 47 this morning.
What do you think are most important strategic bases in the Pacific?
In the Pacific, Guam is pretty strategically significant.
How many rounds of 5.56 can you fit into the magazine of an M4 rifle?
Depends on the magazine, but standard issue is 30. Senator.
And what size round does the M9 Beretta standard issue sidearm for the military fire?
A 9mm, Senator.
What kind of batteries do you put in your night vision goggle?
Duracell.
So right there, you're representing qualifications that show you understand what the warfighter deals with every single day on the battlefield. You understand what happens on the front line, where our troops will be. And what happens, unfortunately, in this country is decisions made in rooms like this, bad decisions, end up in dead 17, 18, 19-year-old Americans. And those Americans rarely come from families that sit in rooms like this. They come from lower middle-income families who sometimes the militaries are on the way out. And they join because maybe they want to go to college. Maybe they know the choice. Maybe they love this country. But for whatever reason, they joined and they sat on the dotted line. And when people like us screw up, they don't come home. And that's the one thing that I care about. As you remember when I shut the door, when you came with your entourage, Senator Coleman, I've known for a long time, and you and I sat together, asked you one question. You remember what that question was?
Are you going to have the backs of the war fighters?
Exactly. What is going to be your number one priority? And I don't care, frankly, what all these letters and articles say. I've been a part of a smear campaign too. I get it. I care that you're going to have one thing in mind when you sit in that chair in that 5-sided building. And you told me what that was.
And it's the war fighter. That's what I want to see. I think we need to see change at the top of the Department of Defense. And I want to give Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump a chance to do that. Let's go to the phone.
Does it worry you if that's the list of qualifications he has? That's it? Does that worry you at all? Just how big are the bullets? How many bullets go in the gun? That's what he's looking for qualifications. Does that worry you at all?
That is an example of somebody who is experienced with what the war fighter is going through,
but all the
these top level bureaucrats. And I think what you saw under Obama was a change in our military that prioritized politics over winning wars. And you have an inept Department of Defense Like I just mentioned, the Afghanistan withdrawal, we're not winning in Ukraine. We're putting restrictions on Israel. The guy disappeared for a few days, and he believes that right-wing extremism is a serious problem in the military to root out.
But the job is political. By its very nature, it is, because he's the point of contact for all of our allies and all of our enemies. By its very nature, the job is political and diplomatic.
I want to see a change there.
And to have someone that has no experience doing that, I guarantee you that the people that have been the SecDef for the last 2 decades know how big the bullets are and know how many bullets go in the gun. They know exactly what he demonstrated as far as knowledge, but they have external, additional knowledge that he doesn't possess. And so that's fine. I understand that we now are going with, and I saw this word yesterday, we are now under the Trump administration embracing unqualified authenticity. As long as you are authentically enough MAGA, qualifications no longer matter. That's it. Yes, we are now under the era of unqualified authenticity.
I think the only qualifications you guys are looking for at this point, because he's a war fighter, he's a decorated veteran, the only qualifications you're looking for at this point is that he can be a bureaucrat.
I want the ability to do the job and showing that he has the ability to manage an $800 billion annual budget and 2 million people, of which he's demonstrated zero qualifications, that he understands the acquisition process, that he was asked by Senator Duckworth yesterday about ASIN, had no idea what that was. And that's an important strategic alliance inside the Indo-Pacific Rim, despite the fact that he mentioned Indo-Pacifica in his opening statements. Yet had no idea about his strategic partners in the region. That's going to work out well.
Let's go to the phone lines. Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. So I think the Hegseth, the whole process of trying to confirm him is pointing at a lot of issues that I think we should all be concerned about. Starting with Joni Ernst. Her whole claim to fame, her whole role in the Senate has been the fact that she was in the military, 1. 2, she has been sexually assaulted. So she has been the point person on those 2 issues for both Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. After she interviewed him the first time, she came out and said, I've got some concerns. Within 72 hours, she was pummeled by Elon Musk saying if she better find her way to supporting him or he's gonna have her primaried and blah blah blah. She came under so much heat that 72 hours later she called another meeting with Hegseth. They had a meeting. He walks out and she says, "Well, I'm feeling a lot better now." So basically,
you're saying Joni Ernst is weak.
I'm not going to say she's weak. She gave up everything she stood for. She sold out on everything she stood for because she realized she's going to be driven out of the Senate.
Hold on, Tony, you're saying a decorated veteran like Joni Ernst who survived a sexual assault is weak?
I'm not. I did not say that. You said that. You said
I think
that.
You just said that she was weak.
I said. She knows she was pummeled in 48 hours so hard by MAGA and the conservative media and by Musk saying you're going to be gone. You'll be
Tony,
gone.
You can't give any credence to the idea that they sat down and talked through these, and now she believes that he's qualified for the job. That's not in the realm of possibilities.
72 hours. It was 72 hours. She didn't make her decision yesterday. This was weeks ago. 72. Everybody knew she was going to flip and support him because she indicated that after the second meeting. She got the message. She backed off. Now, a second senator that you guys ought to pull up the tape on is the senator from Arizona. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Mark Kelly.
So he came in and asked him some very specific questions. He said, I want you to just tell me these are true or false. You have been accused of sexual assault. 1, you have been accused of drinking. You've been accused of blah, blah, blah. And true or false? And his response was
anonymous.
That is an anonymous. That's anonymous issue, and that was not. And those are not anonymous. That was already established that those were not anonymous accusations. No, he was counseled by his attorney. Do not lie to Congress. So do not call it false. just go with the same statement over and over. So he never did. He
Tony,
did not.
that assault charge, you know this, that assault charge was investigated by the police and no charges were brought.
Because they couldn't bring charges, there was lots of other things. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave that out. That's an example of where character, 10 years ago, he would have been eliminated on character issues. He wouldn't have gotten to this far to where he's sitting in front of the whole committee, because they would have wiped him out because of character issues. But he's survived now. Now we're here, and I want to come to the issue you keep making about the DEI and how poorly performing the military has been. And I'm not sure I'm on the same page with you. One, we're not. I think we're not fighting in Ukraine. So you say we haven't advanced. We are the arsenal of democracy, kind of like 1940. That's all we're doing there right now. We don't have men on the ground fighting. So I don't know what that's about, rating our military as being ineffective because they're not winning the war in Afghanistan.
When's the last time we won a war?
Pardon me?
When was the last time we won a war?
Let's go to where we are fighting, and very currently under a DEI laden Navy, and our Navy is in the Mediterranean and has fought off hundreds of attacks and defended Israel twice. Not lost a ship, nor a man, nor a woman. They have fought flawlessly in defending it. So that's where we're at. And that's a DEI-laden Navy with men, women, transgendered. They got the whole ball of wax, and their performance has been impeccable.
Wow.
Now,
I mean,
you could criticize their. You tell me how
I
they
asked
were
you
weak.
the last time we won a war, and you haven't been able to give me an answer. And I've got one name for you with regards to ethics in the U.S. Senate, and that's Mary Jo Kopechne. You remember her? Ted Kennedy sat there for decades in the U.S. Senate after that young woman ended up dead in a car because of his drunk driving. We've got to go, Tony.
Jeff, we can go back to example.
I've got to go. We're up against a break.
Yeah, sorry about that,
But
Tony.
the idea that the U.S. Senate is somehow some great bastion of ethics, again, don't throw rocks if you live in a glass house. That's what they tried to do yesterday.
Tell Newt Gingrich about that when he was complaining about Clinton having an affair. That was, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a horse apiece on both sides. You're right about that, Jeff.
So we'll get to Mike next. Man, the phone lines are lighting up in the text messages. Would you vote to support Pete Hegseth as the new Secretary of Defense? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines because they're jam-packed. Mike Littleton, good morning. What do you think of Pete Hegseth?
Well, good morning. I would say that it doesn't matter who's up for a vote. If you ask me, I'll vote for him. Sure, I'll vote for Billy to be Secretary of Defense, and that's not in a derogatory manner either. If you look at the Department of Defense, it's a bloated bureaucracy, a self-licking ice cream cone. It's not past the last 7 audits that have been performed on it. Nobody knows where the money's going. The head of the Department of Defense can disappear for a week or more, and it makes no difference whatsoever. We currently have 40 plus 4-star admirals and generals in our military, with a fighting force of about 500,000. World War II, we had 7.
Wow.
So what's wrong with this picture? Overall, the Department of Defense, the secretary, for me, is a PR person. And the department is run by the military-industrial complex, the contractors.
Mike, I think you got a great point.
You've got a great point. I do have to point something out. I agree with you on a large portion of where you're going with this, but on the generals, there is an issue there. The expansion of the generals in that command and control structure happened after we were attacked on 9/11. That was part of the expansion of Homeland Security, and that's under the Bush administration. That was a conservative move. That's why that happened. It wasn't because of woke policies and other BS. It was because it was post 9/11, and we started Homeland Security and the war on terror. That's where the expansion of the generals and the larger command and control structure came from. And the only reason I know that is because I heard about that a couple of days ago, and I went and looked. I was curious about why and when it happened.
Mike, great call. Great point. Thanks so much. Let's get you back again. Let's go to Brian Arvada. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, Brian. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, guys. I think haters are going to hate. And the nice part about that is it doesn't matter who Trump, every nominee, the haters are going to say they're not qualified.
True.
That's what happened the last 4 years. The good part about that is the country resoundingly rejected the haters, smacked down the haters. So if you're just out there hating, that's great. No one's listening to you anymore.
Brian, when you watched it yesterday, I don't know if you watched the entire hearing, but parts of it, did you get a sense that the Democrats had learned a lesson from this last election?
When the Democrats it's all the same bloodbath again. They just want to smear. And I think a few of them asked some tough questions. Hegseth, would it be my choice? Probably not. But where were all these senators, or where were all these critics when the department was going woke? No one said a darn word. If you're so concerned about the military, you don't care if it goes woke and costs military lives. But no, you're okay with that, but you're not okay with Pete Hegseth and some smear campaign. That's the problem. And Billy, I know you said you've changed your mind on a lot of things. I respect that. I mean, did it take the girl getting her nose broken by a volleyball spike in her face? Did it take
was before that,
people getting injured?
It was before that, to be honest with you.
Scholarships. Yeah, but
losing scholarships is part of it,
Billy.
man. Yeah, losing scholarships was part of it. I understand that, man. Yeah. Oh no, Brian.
Okay, with men urinating next to women, and so you're still not there on that. But there's a reason why there's private spaces. There's a reason why there's urinals in men's bathrooms.
Although, Brian, I did say this. I did say that while I think that the transgendered men should be allowed inside the women's bathroom, that I will let the women make the choice because they're the ones that are most directly impacted. Even if I disagree with that, I will let them make the choice. I think that's only fair.
This is the only show where this conversation has taken place. So give us a call.
That was great.
We'll continue coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Wolves are being flown in from Canada to Colorado. You're not going to believe this.
Joe Biden is flying in more illegal immigrants. No!
Right. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
They have fur coats, though.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, January 15th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS, as you just heard there. It's kind of like the old Hannity and Combs. Billy and I go back and forth. We agree on some things, disagree on other things. But what most importantly is we invite you into the conversation. It's not just a monologue.
No. My favorite thing was recently we were playing some of the audio of Billy Bush when he was sitting down with Tucker Carlson.
Oh, yeah.
And Billy was like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe this thing I got into with Al Roker. And, our relationship was so different after that. And Jeff and I went and looked, and we were like, that's
like Billy and I getting along.
Exactly. It sounds like us and we're having a good day.
And I joked yesterday, Bill has not prepared me for any Senate hearings that may ever come in the future.
Yeah,
because I'll just be able to go toe to toe.
Exactly. You will. You'll fly through the confirmation hearing.
Or at least get into a spectacular battle.
Oh, yeah. You'll go viral.
Look, a plane recently left Prince George, British Columbia shortly before noon on Sunday, arriving in Eagle County at 3:52. Its cargo believed to be an unknown number of wolves expected to be released here in Colorado. The plane is also believed to be the same Colorado and Parks Wildlife used in December of 2023 to bring in wolves from Oregon. Once it landed in Eagle County, Radio reported that at least 3 CPW trucks, including cages large enough to hold wolves, went to the hangar in Eagle County and then departed. Colorado Parks and Wildlife neither confirming nor denying that Canadian wolves have arrived in the state. After news and comment with Blake Olson, we're going to talk with Representative Larry Suckla.
Just spitballing here. Do you think that I know that we're releasing these things in the mountains and stuff, and this I'm not always a fountain of great ideas, but do you think we could drop some of them in 16th Street Mall and Civic Center Park? I'm just saying that we have a large population of homeless there. And I'm just thinking that maybe if we introduce some competition for resources, things might change. And at least when we're wandering down 16th Street Mall, you see a wolf. But you see a wolf come around the corner. You know that thing can be dangerous. Unlike what happened, the weekend. You had no idea the dude was walking around with a knife stabbing people. At least we know, they got the teeth.
So you're saying that 16th Street Mall will get safer?
Possibly. At least it is a fair competition between 2 equal predators. We'll see what happens. I'm just saying it's an experiment. I'm just spitballing here.
Larry Don Suckla in here in just a moment. Let's go to news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. Billy, I actually like that idea. That's one of your greatest ideas of all time. 18 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 47 today. Our top story.
But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see. But in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it.
More confirmation hearings for DJT's cabinet picks will be held today. First up is Pam Bondi. She's about to take a seat. And Trump's pick for Attorney General and former Attorney General of Florida. Bondi defended Trump during his first fraudulent impeachment created by the commies in D.C. White House Correspondent Jon Decker on this morning with the fellas talking about Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing.
What he also got at the end of the day was a commitment from Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth as the next Secretary of Defense. She had been on the fence. Now that she has indicated that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth, I think he has an easy go of it in terms of winning Senate confirmation.
The LA area is expected to feel more high winds this morning. The wind could cause problems for firefighters still battling devastating blazes that have been burning for over a week now. Wind gusts of up to 70 miles per hour might be felt in the mountains, with 30 to 50 mile per hour gusts on the coast. A state lawmaker is suing Lyft following an alleged sexual assault that happened last year.
I'm one of the thousands of people who have been sexually assaulted by a Lyft driver.
State Representative Jenny Wilford announced the lawsuit at the state capitol on Tuesday. Wilford claimed she booked a ride using the rideshare app last February and was sexually assaulted by the driver. The lawsuit also names Schoening Transportation, a registered state transportation company. She claims the company allowed the driver to illegally use an account tied to one of their vehicles. The North Glen Police Department is still investigating the case and no arrests have been announced. Wilford's attorney.
Lyft has known of well over 6,000 incidents of sex assault on their passengers, and to this date has still failed to take reasonable steps that would address the problem.
Denver Mayor Johnston has vetoed a proposal to change the city's needle exchange guidelines. The city council voted Monday to lift a cap on the number of needle exchange sites in Denver. The measure also removed a requirement to keep the sites at least 1,000 feet from schools and licensed daycare facilities. Johnston vetoed the measure Tuesday, telling the council that it was the wrong solution at the wrong time. Inflation is up, but rose slower than expected. The Consumer Price Index report showed the core annual inflation rate, which excludes food and energy, was 3.2%, which was slightly better than what analysts anticipated. Meanwhile, consumer prices ticked up 0.4% year over year. One of the former Minneapolis police officers connected to the death of George Floyd will be a free man today. J. Alexander King is scheduled to be released today from federal prison in Ohio. He was one of 4 officers convicted over the death of Floyd, who the coroner also said overdosed on fentanyl. Arguments will be heard by the Supreme Court today over a Texas pornography law. Texas requires websites to verify if the user is an adult if it contains sexual material considered harmful to minors. A Texas judge had blocked enforcement of the law, saying it likely wouldn't survive a constitutional challenge because it was similar to a federal law that the Supreme Court said in 2004 was too oppressive for adults. Did Mac Wallace assassinate JFK? Never before heard audio once again on Alex Jones last night of former executive director of the DNC and close associate of LBJ, Clifton Carter, admitting that LBJ hired Mac Wallace to assassinate JFK. This recording was made in 1972. And Shane Stevens was given these audio tapes by his grandfather, who was one of the men in the conversation.
It's sure good to see you. How's life treating you today? Well, Saul, it's been a pretty touch and go situation. Linda and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal with that he hired Mike Wallace to assassinate the president.
Wow. All right, speaking of Dallas, the Nuggets run past the Mavericks and the Avs over the Rangers. 15 in Lone Tree, 13 in Boulder, 18 in Denver. It is Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue.
I pledge to listen to experts.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, are wolves being flown in from Canada to the western slope of Colorado to be released? Colorado Politics tracking, as well as Colorado Wolf Tracker, saying that a plane on Sunday left British Columbia Prince George, British Columbia, arriving noon at Eagle County Airport, where 3 big Colorado Parks and Wildlife trucks carrying cages large enough to hold wolves went into a hangar and then disappeared from there. To give us some insight on what is happening here is Larry Don Suckla. He's a state representative from the Cortez area. By the way, I think Cortez is Colorado's best kept secret. I love that city. Larry, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Well, thank you, Bill and Jeff. And you're right. You keep that Cortez secret to yourself.
I will. I've enjoyed my time down there. Beautiful city, wonderful food, all that. So we could talk more about that. But let's get into these wolves. I guess we can't find them in America anymore. So now we're going to Canada.
That's correct.
And I mean, any sense you're getting from county commissioners as to how many wolves, where they're being released, anything like that?
I believe they said there's around 10, and that's 10 too many.
But what are ranchers in your district? Your district includes Delta, Dolores, Gunnison, Hinsdale, Montezuma, Montrose, Ouray, and San Miguel counties. What are they hearing and telling you about how they feel about these wolves coming into your part of the state?
They did a study that they think it's going to be over $2 million in 2 or 3 years that it's going to affect them in a negative way. I'll tell you one thing in Gunnison County. I have 8 counties in my district. In Gunnison County, they've been spending millions of dollars. I mean, millions of dollars to keep the sage grouse safe. And now they're going to turn right around and they're going to dump a wolf on top of them. A wolf eats everything. So they're going to take them millions of dollars that they spent to reintroduce those sage grouse and protect them, and they're going to destroy their program. Another animal they're going to destroy is actually on our ranch, and that is bordering the Utah border, and that is the desert bighorn sheep. Because what the wolves do is they follow the elk. The elk where I live, they live up in the mountains in the summertime. In the winter, they live down in the desert. So they migrate. The wolves will migrate, and they will. The elk go down there where the desert bighorn sheep are that they reintroduced. And what they're going to do is they're going to eat all those desert bighorn sheep.
Talking with Larry Don Suckla. He's a representative from House District 58. Now, Representative, the previous wolves that have been reintroduced haven't been working out. One was shot. I don't know if it was the same one that was starved, but they had to try to relocate them. I don't think they're going to be able to. What about the existing wolves? What happened to them?
Well, one of them they said got shot. I don't know that. I don't know where they're at. They won't ever tell us where they're at. By the way, they said there's 2 planes that came from Canada. There was one over the weekend, and then there was one yesterday.
And the state's paying to fly these folks in, these wolves in, folks. Wolves. They're paying to fly them in.
$1 billion. Yes, Jeff. Without almost $1 billion deficit that we're currently facing, they are spending this money. They won't even pay the ranchers the compensation that they need for their cattle.
Do you know how much that has gotten up to, the compensation for the lost cattle as a result of these wolves?
$600,000.
$600,000 has been lost in compensation. These are cattle that were going to be sold off, that the ranchers lost the money from to be able to continue their livelihood because of this special project implemented by voters primarily on the Front Range.
Well, I can tell you, I've only lived in Denver. I've only lived in a city one time 30 years ago for a short period of time. I have been in this city now for 12 days. I have never lived in a city like this before. The only 3 animals that I've seen while I've lived here is dogs, squirrels, and birds. Where I live, there is animals everywhere, and they are fixing to kill them, including my cattle and my rancher friends' cattle, and their sheep, and their goats.
I've talked to Perry Will in the past, and Perry helped me understand a very important notion. I'd like you to talk to this, that it's not just about the animals that are directly killed. So, for instance, sheep that are raised in Colorado will often eat the best grass, and a lot of times the best grass is right up by the forest. But when there's wolves around, the sheep won't go up and eat that grass. And so as a result, the entire flock, even though they might not be killed by a wolf, are going to be lower weight. And that brings in less money to these shepherds and sheep ranchers. And they lose out as a result. And they never even had an attack. And they lost money as a result of it. Can you speak to that component?
Yes, as a rancher and as a sheep man, what you do is you make your money per pound. We sell them by the pound. And so the one thing that affects what something grows and how it weighs is stress. So if you stress an animal, they do not gain weight. And then that hurts our bottom dollar.
Talking with Larry Suckla, he's a representative from House District 58, which is the southern western part of Colorado. So what are you going to do about it? You're now a state representative. Have you called upon a meeting with the governor? We know the governor's spouse wants this. He's a committed animal rights activist that's really kind of pushing Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Are you going to introduce any bills? Are you going to have any hearings? Are you going to challenge the governor? What is your plan at the state legislature to try to address this?
Well, I can tell you, you have 22 of us that are in this position now on the Republican side, and we stand in unison in fighting this. We want to stop it. We stand in unison on this ballot initiative that's being talked about to take this away. I can tell you the biggest problem with this is when you have the town of Denver, the city of Denver, and the people that elect to put a wolf over on the western slope. So what you're doing here is you are choosing to put something onto somebody else that doesn't want it. And to me, that is not fair.
Oh, you're exactly right. Well, Representative Larry Suckla will continue to follow this. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you for representing ranchers and farmers that are facing this catastrophe. And I say it is a catastrophe, $600,000 in $1 billion deficit having to be spent reimbursing ranchers. Now you're paying to fly them in from Canada because no one in America wants to relocate their wolves. This is a disaster. It needs to be repealed. I know that there's a ballot initiative working to try to do this, but thank you for being such a strong defender of ranchers and the Western way of life down at the state capitol.
Yeah, thanks for the time today.
Well, thank you. And I believe that those 8 counties picked me because I think they might have just turned a wolf loose in Denver, Colorado.
That's good.
I like that. Thank you so much,
Thanks a lot.
ladies and gentlemen. Representative Larry Suckla. Bill,
that's interesting.
I mean, these flights are just kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's some things, and again, I'm not all the way where you are on the position, but I'm not all the way over on Super Pro Wolf. I do think there are some places for them inside the ecosystem, but I am worried about what Representative Suckla brought up there. I'm most worried about the fact that, and again, if true, and I'm assuming it is based on the fact that he brought the numbers to us, I'm not disagreeing with him, that $600,000 of compensation hasn't been paid, or that worries me, or the $600,000 has been paid and there also is other compensation that hasn't been. That worries me, because if you're not paying these farmers and ranchers for compensation, I disagree, because that was part of the deal. When the voters agreed to bring the wolves in, you need to pay the farmers and ranchers for all of the impact. And I would say that you don't get to bring in any more wolves until that account is settled. The idea being that with your kids, unless you clean your room, you get the allowance for cleaning your room. If you didn't clean your room, I'm not giving you the allowance. If you're not upholding your side of the deal as far as compensating these ranchers and farmers, I am not okay with you bringing more wolves into the ecosystem, because you're already not being responsible for the impact that they are creating. So that's got a problem. And I like the idea, the budget number. The budget number for me is something, honestly, seems weird, that can bend me one way or another on the wolf issue. If it is getting to be such an economic impact to the farmers and ranchers, then yes, I can say that, okay, we got to dial back this wolf thing. The sage grouse also is a concern for me, although I do find it a little bit interesting, because I would assume that when they were looking at originally protecting the sage grouse, a lot of people that are saying, hey, the wolves are going to go eat the sage grouse, weren't in favor of protecting it in the first place. I'm just guessing that you weren't like, hey, we got to protect this bird. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, they're going to eat this protected bird. I'm guessing. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, what
though.
he's pointing out in that case is that particular, I think it was Montezuma County spending $1 million to protect it.
That is 100% accurate. Yes. That if you're so worried about the protection of the prey animal, you don't then bring in a new predator that will feast on that prey animal. That is an excellent point, and he is 110% right about that. And again, if we're introducing the wolves in that area, it does seem phenomenally stupid. Yet we've seen phenomenally stupid choices coming out of our legislature and our voters for a while.
And it's going to face this budget crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, we're $1 billion that has to be cut somewhere. And one of the arguments that the wolf people are making is that the bill was really only about reintroducing the wolves one time.
Oh, that's interesting.
That this constant reintroduction of having to go to Canada and fly them down and now spend all this money to do it isn't necessarily in the direct wording of the ballot initiative.
Yeah. And I can see that. And I can see that legally. The part for me that I think that's really a strong point that you just brought up is the budget shortfall. Is if we were going to make budget priorities and we were going to have to dial back savings and spending so that we can get to $1 billion, it would seem that at least pausing this type of a program would make a hell of a lot of sense. One, because you have wolves here.
Yeah.
Two, they're costing money. And so let's see what happens as far as the balance and see if this economically makes sense to continue to go forward, given the fact that our budget is upside down.
Well, it's not unlike you having a budget discussion with your family and going, guys, this is going to be a rough year. It's going to be a shortfall. We've got to cut here. And the kids going, but Daddy, we want a new puppy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or I want to eat lunch out every day at school, or, a whole bunch of other things. But my friends are going to this concert. Can't I have the tickets for this concert? Yes. There are times in which you're going to have to constrain your budget. And it would seem very, very logical that spending extra money to go and bring wolves into the state when we're already not settling the bills that the current wolves have created is a economically and managerial malfeasance. That is awful.
Does it seem too like maybe bringing in wolves from Canada is a little intense? Like Canadian northern wolves, that seems to be a special brand of wolf, like a really tough brand of wolf, a vicious one. And we're like, welcome to Colorado. It's just like heading to Mexico for the rest of us. It's going to be warm and enjoyable and all. And, all of a sudden, these wolves who had to probably work a lot more for their food.
Yeah, that may be the one thing. Is the idea that this is a target-rich environment because the ecosystem they're introduced into hasn't experienced their form of predation for a while. So that could really be, an impact. To me, it's just more the money. The idea that we're still spending the money to bring them in. Again, since we haven't settled up the account we already have, you're running a bar tab, yet you're still coming into the bar every day drinking. You haven't settled up your bill. Why should I allow you to take that 3 fingers of whiskey today when you haven't yet paid for the 3 fingers of whiskey you've drank for the past 6 months? Why would I possibly do that?
Suzanne texting in going, isn't the Western way of life including wolves? Look, I didn't have a concern. It's not like we have to put up a wall and any wolf from Wyoming that comes into Colorado has to be immediately shipped back. We don't want any wolves at all. What I'm frustrated with is a bunch of voters in Highlands Ranch, Denver, and Boulder were like, this makes me feel good. And so they're dropping wolves and we're having to fly them on state-owned planes from Canada and then the amount of manpower we're putting in to try to make this a successful reintroduction where that didn't work in the Cooper Creek Pack. And now you have farmers and ranchers to the tune of $600,000 requiring reimbursement from the state for the lost cattle. Plus, as he mentioned, what Perry Wells said before, the lost weight, the lost revenue, going through that whole rigmarole. That is not the Western way of life. That is ballot box biology and big government engineering. And it's being it's a disaster.
Yeah, and I understand. I believe that wolves do have a role in the ecosystem, and I think Suzanne's got a point as far as, the Western way of life and having to deal with those predators, and our forefathers and the people settled in Colorado had to deal with those predators, and so I'm okay with introducing them. But from what we have discovered so far, I don't believe that at the state level they are following the rules, and again, not paying their bills. And by following the rules, we've had conversations where the rules were you don't capture them and then hold them indefinitely, that they would have to be euthanized, but we're capturing them and holding them indefinitely. The rules also were supposed to be you don't capture them and then re-release them elsewhere. Yet we have captured them and re-release them elsewhere. And that's where it looks like what the voters approved, even what the voters thought they were voting for, the state can't follow the most basic rules. So to me, feels like you are violating the agreement, even for the silly ballot box biology, as you call it, Jeff, and fairly accurately, for the people in Highlands Ranch and Boulder and elsewhere. Even in those silly choices, as you described them, the state still can't follow those rules and guidelines. Then what the hell are you doing? You don't get to just automatically decide that you're going to make up the new rules going forward because you like it. It's ridiculous. So of course not pay your bills.
The first gentleman of Colorado
That's
loves
true.
this that much, there's a lot of internal pressure. That's coming.
Yeah.
Gabe texting, the Western way of life was to kill the wolf.
Oh, yeah, I agree that. Yes. And the agreement and the thing with the wolf packs is once they figured out that when you approach the cattle, that a few of you died, they don't come after the cattle as much anymore. Yeah. They look for easier opportunities. And that is part of what happens inside of nature. If you attack the big herd of elephants and you can't bring down the elephant, you start choosing the gazelle over in Africa.
Well, one of the arguments was that while this may work in Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, population density here in Colorado is totally different. And you have people moving into the West, more and more into the mountains, and it just wasn't the right formula.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you all. Maybe you believe this is a great idea, or maybe you're not. Billy and I fall on either side of this issue. Join the conversation. Give us a call. Phone number is 303-696-1971. Would you release a wolf in your backyard?
Ooh.
Are you happy with your tax dollars going to pay ranchers that have lost cattle as a result of these wolves? By the way, if you want to track these wolves, Colorado Wolf Tracker on Facebook is a group where they're literally like driving around taking pictures of Colorado Parks and Wildlife, being like, they're heading this way, they're heading this way, because they won't tell them where they're releasing the wolves.
Jeez.
Do you think that's right?
No, I think they absolutely should be telling the farmers and ranchers where and when the wolves are being released, because it could be a danger to their flocks. It could be a danger to a number of things. So the idea that it's a secret, I think, is absolutely stupid and shows to me the disingenuousness of the people that are in charge of the program. However, you talked about the idea of would you welcome a wild wolf into your backyard? So I've got a question about that one. Am I allowed to release the wolf when you get those people knocking on the door and they want to sell me stuff? If I can do it, then give me a wolf in my backyard. I will be more than happy.
Open the door.
Yes, go get them.
There they go.
I will be more than happy to do that. Other than that, if I can't, I'm less persuadable about having the wolf in my backyard. But you want me to attack the people at the front door? Sure, I'm all in.
Colorado Wolf Tracker has now deemed the plane, which is N575PC, which is the state CPW plane, which I guess you can track online now, the Wolf Express, and they're tracking it as it flies around the state of Colorado. So all that at Colorado Wolf Tracker. We'll get to your phone calls and texts. Look, do you know a high school student who has a passion for engaging in culture and political issues? The knowledge and skills needed to impact the world through civic engagement is an ever-increasing need in today's society. Colorado Christian University is at the forefront of meeting this crucial need, equipping the next generation of competent, convictional Christian leadership in American politics. CCU's degree program in politics with an emphasis in public policy prepares students for the complex challenges of modern politics from an unapologetically Christian and foundationally conservative worldview. In this distinct program, students learn how to impact public policy and advance Christian conservative ideas. Colorado Christian University also houses the Centennial Institute, a think tank committed to mobilizing ideas on faith, family, and freedom to strengthen America's future. CCU's mission to produce graduates who impact the world with grace and truth applies in no greater measure than to our politics and public policy program. Apply today at ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So Monday is the big day. DJT back in office with the big inauguration. And if you want to watch it, hang out, have some fun, enjoy a buffet. They got the open bar, all that stuff. Our good friend here at 710 KNUS, Mike Boyle, is the host of the Mike Boyle Show. He's going to be hosting his event Monday morning. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Bill. And you know what? I was thinking about this. Bill, let's you and I have a little chat here. You know, Jeff is going back to Washington.
Yeah, he is.
And he thinks it's a big deal. He's going to be in person at the inauguration.
I know. He keeps doing his little dance during the breaks and stuff, going, look where I'm going. And I know. It's kind of embarrassing.
Well, but Bill, listen, the weather's going to be a high of 22 in Washington. It's an outdoor event. Sure, I know that it's going to be colder than that here, but we're going to be inside 72. Yeah. When you leave the station that day and come over to the party, you'll be able to park right out in front of the View House restaurant and come on in.
Oh, my goodness.
And one other advantage that I think, Bill, is that they're going to have to go through lines and security. We're going to get people in. And, Bill, I've heard that part of the security process back in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration this year, don't tell Jeff, but they've initiated body cavity searches also as part of the... No. We will not have any cavity searches, Bill.
Good.
I suppose unless you want one, and then we'll figure out that.
That costs extra. Yeah, that's a special VIP package.
The view. I mean, he'll be in another zip code.
Yeah.
We will be in front of big screen televisions with a fire in the fireplace. And you know what? If he wants to eat something, he's going to have to stuff some sort of breakfast burrito in his pocket. And we're going to have a beautiful buffet. So, you know, Bill, I think that we've got the better deal.
I think so, too. And when we wrap up the show on Monday, I am headed down to the View House here in Centennial to hang out with Mike Boyle and as many of you as can pack the place. It's going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning. Come on over and talk to me about how I should be wallowing in my tears. It's going to be a lot of fun to meet as many of you as possible.
We're going to open the doors about 9:45, get everybody in place. And it's going to be just kind of a watch party. You know what I was thinking about this?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you like to watch the Bronco game all by yourself and dissect all of it. Yeah. And other times you want to watch it with a crowd. Well, what we're finding, and by the way, folks, space is limited. Space is available at MikeBoyle.com. But when it fills up, it fills up. The point is that this will be, I'm just getting a lot of individuals, a lot of singles that just want some place to be. I know there's some other watch parties around town, but I think that this one's going to be special.
Here's the thing: is that this is a nice community that we've got here at KNUS, and a wonderful community that you have curated on the weekends. And this is about a celebration. I am all for the idea that with Donald Trump coming back in office, if he's your dude, then you need to turn this one out. You need to start celebrating at 9 o'clock in the morning. You deserve it after the 4 years you've had under Biden. You need to get together with all of your friends, just like when the Broncos. You know that feeling that when you're in the stadium at Mile High, you're over there at the Pepsi Center, the can, or the hell they call it, and the team wins, that over sense of joy and the cheer that happens. That's what this is going to be. Yep. This is going to be coming together for a great celebration, and also to make fun of Bill during the morning at the View House. And I appreciate that, and I'm all in for it that morning. I can't wait for it. So it starts about 9:45. Check it out, MikeBoyle.com, MikeBoyle.com. They'll wrap you up right around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Food, drinks, warm weather, get to make fun of me, and then you're also free to go and wander around to the other parties that are not going to be as cool nor as fun, but we did get you loose for the rest of the day. So yeah, you got to check this one out, Mike. This is going to be a lot of fun. I love that you put this together, man.
Yeah, no, Jeff, you just go on back there and try to put a happy face on your miserable experience, and we'll be here.
I'll do my very best with my 200,000 best friends. So, all right.
Not to mention the third-degree credit card burn you're going to get.
Oh, yeah. Yes. You have made this one wonderful, Mike. Hey, have a great day. We'll talk to you later this week, man.
Thank you.
You're the
Mike
best.
Boyle, go to MikeBoyle.com to get your
Yes.
tickets there.
Space
for the
is
restaurant
limited.
show
And again, this is
inauguration party.
earlier in the day. You can do the other parties, the more formal parties. This is about hanging out, just having fun, celebrate with friends.
And watch
you know
the
it's a great day
speeches,
and
yeah.
watch what's going on. So you've earned this. You spent 4 years under Biden. Come out and celebrate at VU House with Mike Boyle. Check it out,
Amen.
MikeBoyle.com.
Isn't that the line?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting a lot of text messages here on the Wolves. Gabe sent us a picture of his terrifying wolf
Oh, I
that
haven't
he
seen it yet,
releases. And it's a cute little schnauzer, I think.
Oh, I like that.
Nice, Gabe. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Aaron, Denver. Good morning, Aaron. You're
Morning,
on the
Aaron.
Jeff and Bill show.
Well, guys, they asked Willie Sutton. They said, Willie Sutton, why do you rob banks? He said, well, that's where the money's at.
Yeah.
And you could ask a pack of wolves, well, why do you attack that cattle, that Pete, the sheep and goats? Well, because that's where the easy meat is, moron.
Yep.
So, that's where they're going to go. And the thing is, I voted for that legislation. But, hindsight is 20/20. If they do put it back on a ballot, I would vote to repeal it, because apparently the state hasn't come up with any common sense ways to keep the pack of wolves separated from the cows.
Let me talk to you this. Let me talk to you a little bit about that. And I understand. I appreciate the fact that you said you voted for it, and I did too. But here's the thing: what does it make you think when you're hearing from people like Larry Don Suckla, representative, and you're hearing from other people involved in this program that are observers saying that the state isn't following the rules that people like you and I voted for? They're not reimbursing farmers. They're, capturing the wolves and reintroducing them. They're moving them, and they continue to bring them in. All stuff they weren't supposed to do when you and I made that choice. And now they're making different choices. How does that make you feel as a voter?
Well, as a voter, it makes me feel like I'm a big working stiff sucker.
Yes, me too, man.
Just like the ranchers. These are hard-working ranchers out there busting their butts, raising their cattle, raising their goats, their sheep, the chickens, the pigs, whatever they're doing. And then, of course, you got the National Western Stock Show going on. And basically, so when you're going to introduce a pack of wolves at the National Western Stock Show, what do you think they're going to do there? Like, you must be crazy.
I love that. That's a great example,
Well, and Aaron, to your point on this, think of what they've done to the actual wolves. So if you're an animal compassion person, okay, they take an entire pack, because you can't just take one or two. They take an entire pack. They put them to sleep. Forget what I was going to say, euthanize. That's the wrong word. But they put them to sleep. They then load them up on planes, and then they just drop them off in a place where they have no idea where the food supply is. This is to Iggy's point, and Iggy had a great text message on this. It's not like they grew up around here and they know that the elk migrate north and they can follow the elk and all that stuff. No. They're just dropped off. And then to your point, Aaron, look, there's a juicy cow right there.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go for that.
Yeah. If I was in a pack of wolves, I'm like, hey man, that cow is really slow versus go try to chase a deer down or a rabbit or something. A rabbit, a deer, they're really fast. I'm hungry, so I'm going for the quick burger.
Aaron, you're exactly
you're right,
right.
man.
Great call.
Great call. It's nice to hear from you.
So
Have a great day,
much,
man.
Aaron. So much fun, man.
Yeah.
I love him. Gabe is now hammering me because he's going, that's not a schnauzer. That's a wiener dog. And in light of me saying that, I have to say, go Raiders.
Oh, that's fantastic. And those wiener dogs were bred to hunt rodents and other small animals to fit inside of the little holes that they get into. And if you get them going, they will just go after it. They are fantastic little hunters. They are wonderful. Although I've got a dog, a Kelpie, that's a medium-sized dog. She sees the little wiener dogs and she's like, ooh, mommy want to eat. She thinks they're prey immediately, because that's how she's wired. She chases after that smaller prey. So she immediately sees them and is like, oh, please run, little doggy. I would love to chase you, and then bite you. Yeah.
9310 texting in, the fact that no U.S. states will give Colorado wolves is all you need to know about this program. Additionally,
that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's extremely inhumane to take a pack away of animals away from its pack home territory, drop them hundreds of miles away.
It is, and I can see that because, and again, this is weird, but I've got experience. I keep reptiles, and even moving them from enclosure to enclosure, moving them from different room to room, even in a house, or going from one house to another, is disconcerting to the animal. And even inside their enclosure, nothing can change, but just the simple act of moving from room to room does create problems for them. And it takes them about 2 weeks or so to settle in. I can't imagine what happens with a mammal that is picked up and taken from their location and dropped into a brand new ecosystem without any explanation or understanding. Yeah, I can see that. That can be very inhumane.
Can we release the wolves in the Boulder area? You know, there was a lawmaker that, in light of this, introduced a bill that said we're only going to reintroduce the wolves in the counties that voted for them.
That's kind of good.
Boulder, Denver.
I still think that, I'm being so much facetious, but I still think that, a little bit of wolf reintroduction at Civic Center Park and 16th Street Mall, at least if the homeless people are being as aggressive and things as we're hearing down there, I'm just saying equal predation. Let's just have them compete for resources and let's see what happens.
8422 wondering, can we bring back dinosaurs now? They used to roam the area as well. Why are we stopping with wolves?
Hey, don't go all Jurassic Park on me. You're talking about little Billy loves the idea of dinosaurs. I would pay big money to reintroduce dinosaurs. I'm all in on that one, man. I am. I watched Jurassic Park and thought this should be a documentary.
So are you like Aaron? Did you vote for the wolves initially and now go, man, I made a mistake on this one and I would vote to repeal it? Would love to hear from you. Phone line is open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader. This is News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Troopers and canines have tracked down and arrested multiple illegal migrants who were running from officials in Texas on private ranches. Canine Shark and his handler tracked 6 illegal migrants for 1.5 miles in Maverick County. With help from DPS's border-mounted patrol unit, all 6 illegal migrants were found and apprehended. According to Lieutenant Chris Olivares, some of the migrants had illegally crossed the border numerous times, including one of the males named Victor Antonio Olan de la Cruz from Mexico, who he said, quote, had numerous charges for illegal entry dating back to 2014. He came across the border this time through Maverick County, where DPS troopers were ready and arrested him for criminal trespass. In fiscal year 2024, the Human Trafficking Division at DPS arrested 900 suspects and rescued 440 human trafficking victims. As day 2 of the confirmation hearings for President Donald Trump's cabinet position nominees continues, many are still mocking Elizabeth Warren for her failed attack on Pete Hegseth.
You're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one.
In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel. At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Troopers and canines have tracked down and arrested multiple illegal migrants who were running from officials in Texas on private ranches. Canine Shark and his handler tracked 6 illegal migrants for 1.5 miles in Maverick County. With help from DPS's border-mounted patrol unit, all 6 illegal migrants were found and apprehended. According to Lieutenant Chris Olivares, some of the migrants had illegally crossed the border numerous times, including one of the males named Victor Antonio Olan de la Cruz from Mexico, who he said, quote, had numerous charges for illegal entry dating back to 2014. He came across the border this time through Maverick County, where DPS troopers were ready and arrested him for criminal trespass. In fiscal year 2024, the Human Trafficking Division at DPS arrested 900 suspects and rescued 440 human trafficking victims. As day 2 of the confirmation hearings for President Donald Trump's cabinet position nominees continues, many are still mocking Elizabeth Warren for her failed attack on Pete Hegseth.
You're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one.
In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I don't see anybody that's really excited about the Wolves anymore in Colorado, Bill.
Well, it's First Gentleman. He's super excited.
I think he's none of the text messages are going, come on, guys, this is part of the growing pains. Wolves are going to really make a great difference in our community with our ecosystem. I'm not seeing any of that. I don't see any of that.
And here's I think, the lesson that maybe those one or two Democrat lawmakers that might be listening to the show this morning may take from this is follow the rules. That maybe when you tell the voters that if you choose this, we're going to do X and Y and Z, and we're going to make compensation work this way for those people that are harmed, that maybe you should follow through on that. Maybe it's important to the voters to, even if they see some negative consequences, that the remedies for those negative consequences that were written into the proposed legislation should be followed through with. Maybe perhaps when you talk about how you were going to manage the wolves, maybe you follow those rules. Perhaps when you make an agreement with voters, you need to honor that agreement. Perhaps that's important because what we're seeing here is there are some people, as you just heard from Aaron, who voted for this in the past and now have questions. I voted for this in the past and I now have questions. How many other voters out there are just like me? Yeah. This is a lesson.
And Bill, then there's guys like me who just get it right every time I vote. So
I'll get you a hat. You're the best, my friend.
Iggy saying that if we introduce wolves into Denver, they're just going to become addicted to meth and fentanyl.
although meth wolf, I mean, that's got to be another, there's got to be, we've got Cocaine Bear, we've got Sharknado,
meth wolf.
I think we got something there, Iggy. I think we got a movie there. And hey, Stephen Tubbs is a filmmaker, and we could do something here.
Meth wolf. And would it be scarier than the trendy gangs that are taking over Aurora?
It would be Denver in Decay, Meth Wolf versus TDA. That's the sequel. God, I'm an idiot.
Oh my goodness. All right, coming up in the next hour, Darcy Schoening is going to be joining us. She's a candidate for Colorado Republican Party chair. But what's interesting is that she's in Dave Williams' inner circle.
What?
Managing director of special events for the state party. And what does it say about Dave Williams? Is he not going to run?
Yeah.
All this and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
You know who we are. We're Denver's talk leader. This is 710 KNUS.
Meth Wolf. It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you're heading to work in the greatest country in history. It's just a few more days until DJT is your president. We're kicking off a whole nother hour of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, pick up that phone and give us a call, 303-696-1971. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Darcy Schoening, candidate for Colorado Republican Party chairwoman, is joining us. This is a big deal because Darcy really is kind of in Dave's inner circle. She currently works for the state party, does special projects, special events, those types of things. And she's now put in her hat to run the party. Does this mean Dave is either heading out towards maybe an administration job, something else than running the state party? Or is there going to be an internal battle within the family for the role as chairperson of the Colorado Republican Party? Would love to hear from you on this as well. So you're not going to want to miss this conversation with Darcy. Text line 720-819-5115. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. Great show. 25 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 47 today. Our top story.
Will you assure the entire staff and funding levels to properly support and prosecute false claim cases?
Senator, the False Claims Act is so important, and especially by what you said with whistleblowers as well, and the protection and the money it brings back to our country. Yes, sir.
More confirmation hearings for DJT's cabinet picks being held right now. That was Pam Bondi, Trump's pick for Attorney General and former Attorney General for Florida. Bondi defended Trump during his first fraudulent impeachment created by the commies in D.C. Bondi is right in the beginning, right now, in the middle of it.
We fought to eliminate human trafficking by raising awareness and prevention and talking to parents and talking to children. We also provided critical resources, including safe houses, that my state was lacking. If confirmed as the next Attorney General of the United States, my overriding objective will be to return the Department of Justice to its core mission of keeping Americans safe and vigorously prosecuting criminals. And that includes getting back to basics: gangs, drugs, terrorists, cartels, our border, and our foreign adversaries.
And how about Pete Hegseth's chances for Secretary of Defense? White House Correspondent Jon Decker on the show this morning.
What he also got at the end of the day was a commitment from Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth as the next Secretary of Defense. She had been on the fence. Now that she has indicated that she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth, I think he has an easy go of it in terms of winning Senate confirmation.
Colorado Rep. Larry Don Suckla, House District 58, fighting the horrible problem of wolves being introduced into our state, hurting ranchers in Colorado. He and 22 Republicans leading a ballot initiative on with Jeff and Bill last hour.
I can tell you the biggest problem with this is when you have the town of Denver, the city of Denver, and the people that elect to put a wolf over on the western slope. So what you're doing here is you are choosing to put something onto somebody else that doesn't want it. And to me, that is not fair.
Hey, if you say woof, you have credibility with me. This dude knows. The LA area is expected to feel more high winds this morning. The wind could cause problems for firefighters still battling devastating blazes. They've been burning now for over a week. Wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour might be felt in the mountains with 30 to 50 mile an hour winds. Wind gusts on the coasts. A state lawmaker is suing Lyft following an alleged sexual assault that happened last year.
And I'm one of the thousands of people who have been sexually assaulted by a Lyft driver.
State Representative Jenny Wilford announced the lawsuit at the state capitol on Tuesday. Wilford claims she booked a ride using the rideshare app last February and was sexually assaulted by the driver. Wilford's attorney.
Lyft has known of well over 6,000 incidents of sex assault on their passengers, and to this date has still failed to take reasonable steps that would address the problem.
TikTok is planning to shut down its app for U.S. users on Sunday. That's according to Reuters. That's when a federal ban on the social media app would go into effect if the Supreme Court doesn't move to block it. The law would only ban new TikTok downloads from the Google or app stores and would let existing users to still have access to some amount of time. Instead, the users can open the app come Sunday and see a pop-up message that directs them to a website that has information about the ban. The Nuggets run past the Mavericks last night in the Avalanche over the Rangers. 23 in Littleton, 22 in Lakewood, 25 in Denver. Wednesday morning continues. We're off and running, and Jeff and Billy continue.
Try to chase a deer down or a rabbit or something. A rabbit or deer, they're really fast. I'm hungry. So I'm going for the quick burger.
Hey, Aaron, great day when you could hear from Aaron. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Fair weather for the next 2.5 days. Take advantage of it because the coldest air of the season will be here by the weekend. Partly cloudy skies. Temperatures will be well into the 40s today. Tomorrow we bump all the way into the 50s, but it's very brief. Highs on Friday will be back into the 40s. That happens early in the day. Plunging temperatures Friday night with a chance of snow developing. Periods of light snow only in the teens Saturday. Near to below zero with flurries Saturday night. Flurries and bitterly cold Sunday and Monday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, big decision coming up for Republicans in the state of Colorado. Who's going to be the chairperson of the GOP? We heard from Britta Horn last week. She's thrown her hat in. She'd like to challenge Dave Williams. If Dave chooses to remain chairman, we don't know. But an interesting development in all this is Darcy Schoening. She's the director of special initiatives for the Colorado Republican Party. She's on the team. She's part of the leadership of the state party. And now she's announcing her candidacy to become chairwoman of the Colorado Republican Party. Good morning, Darcy. Thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, why are you the best person to lead the Colorado Republican Party?
Well, in a sense, I've already been in there and doing all of the things that it takes to help flip seats and create meaningful policy to shield localities and school boards from the destructive legislature and Governor Polis. And honestly, I think one of the biggest qualifications for this job is just to like doing it. And I love doing this. I love the people. I tell my friends, I can't wait to see everybody at all the events. I love hugging everybody. I love answering their calls. I'm somebody that's for the people, and I can't wait to go around to all the counties. And so, yeah, I think it's a matter of, number one, I'm already doing a lot of this stuff. But number two, I really, really want to do it, and I love to do it. And I think finding somebody that wants to do it and loves to do it and not just for a salary is going to be a tall order.
Talking with Darcy Schoening. She's director of special initiatives for the Colorado Republican Party, and she's announced her candidacy to be the new chairwoman. So look, running the state party, it's a lot of blocking and tackling. Let's talk about some of those. Fundraising probably being one of the most important. What's your fundraising background? How do you plan to improve fundraising for the Colorado Republican Party?
Well, when I first came on board, I actually was brought on to do some fundraising. And I've been doing that via Capital Club and then via local policy that we ask people to donate for as we go in and protect those localities. For example, Durango schools or D38 or what have you. When we do those things, we come in on the back end and say, to keep us going, go ahead and donate. So there's several different mechanisms for fundraising, but what I would really like to see, especially since we're in an off year, it's not really an off year. We've got school board elections this year. And so I'd really like to see the donors come together from all sides of the party and help us raise some significant funds so that we can go ahead and convert school board seats and make sure that our kids are protected from Governor Polis and the Democrats.
Let's talk about division. A lot of the critique we get from folks, even from Britta Horn, is that she wants to unite the party. There's so much division with it right now. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you believe there's division within the Republican Party? And then you're part of the current leadership of the Republican Party. What do you do to improve the unity of the party?
I think there's always division. Even in having experienced this job and, gone to convention and met chairs and vice chairs and leadership from other states, what we see in Colorado is not that different from what we see in other states. Everybody probably thinks, down in Florida, I bet you the GOP is I bet you everybody gets along and things are just rainbows and sunshine down there. And they're not. I mean, we are all in this because we have strong opinions and we have our own ideas of how we want to fight for Colorado and fight for our families. And so we have to understand that there's always going to be some division, and to bring us together. The way that I've always done that historically is by looking at every single person involved and finding their strengths, finding what they're good at and putting those to use. There isn't a single person in this party that I would say that we should throw away or kick out. It's a matter of bringing those people and taking their skills and using them for the best of Colorado.
Darcy Schoening is a candidate for Colorado GOP chair, joining Jeff and Bill live. I've got a question about that idea of team for you right now, Darcy. And for the first time in my recollection, the state party endorsed candidates in the primary. In that primary, the endorsed candidates did not come out for the majority on the winning end. What does that say in your mind about the choices the state party was making about candidates, and also about the idea of team building? Is it smart to start picking teams and sides as early as the primary, or should we let Colorado GOP voters choose who they want out of the primary and then pick the fight?
Well, I think that, you bring up a question that has been brought up repeatedly, and I'd like to frame it a little bit differently, and then I'll answer your question. So when we look at elections, when we look at who we're going to endorse, whether we're talking about who Darcy Schoening is endorsing or who organization A, B, or C is endorsing, an endorsement isn't necessarily who we think is going to win. An endorsement isn't a horse race. It's not putting money on who we think is going to cross the finish line. It's putting out there a public statement that I feel that this candidate best matches the values of the Republican Party, and here's why. And so those are two different things. So it's easy to look at it from an outsider standpoint and say, okay, well, the GOP lost this many endorsements. But again, it's not a horse race. It's a statement about who best matches those values. Now, when we take that out of that Colorado GOP vacuum and say, how can we apply this to elections and to the greater cause of Colorado, we can still do that. We can educate the counties, and we can hold, all kinds of training sessions. And actually, Rep. Stephanie Luck has brought this up repeatedly in the past, doing training sessions to say, okay, if you're not voting as conservatively as I think you should be, or as the party or an organization believes you should be, why is that? And how can we help you come to terms with this and help you vote more conservatively? And I think that those are two important things to remember, that at the end of the day, endorsements are not who's going to win. It's who best reflects our values. But then, like I said, number two, we have to look at how do we best stick to our values, because that's important at the end of the day as well.
That's the voice of candidate for Colorado GOP Chair Darcy Schoening that you are hearing on the Jeff and Bill Show live. I want to follow up on that. The idea, I understand what you're saying about the endorsement, saying this is the person that best reflects the party values. What does it say when the party rejects that person that the party chair group said reflects the values? Who's wrong? Is it the chair that is making this endorsement that is rejected by the party? Or is it the party not understanding what the chair is doing? Who's wrong in that situation?
Well, I don't think I would say either is wrong. I would say that we're just not on the same page. And so that's why as a party, when we talk about unity and we talk about education and we talk about outreach, this is one of those things that we are going to have to discuss more in the coming years and figure out how we can all come closer to the same page. Does it mean that we need to go out into center square and start yelling and calling everybody names and calling everybody rhinos and initiating a recall every 2 days? No, but it does mean that, like I said, we need to examine why do we have people that are on this side of the party and this side of the party when our values are so clear.
Talking to Darcy Schoening. She's a candidate for Colorado Republican chair. I want to ask you about Gabe Evans. We had Gabe on the show here. Gabe said he got zero help from the Colorado Republican Party. You're currently in leadership with the Colorado Republican Party. Is he being honest? Why wasn't the state party there to help Gabe Evans win in one of the most critical congressional seats in this last race?
Well, the state party actually did do a lot of outreach with candidates. We had weekly Zoom calls for all candidates. We offered data outreach support. We offered all kinds of support by way of lists, data management. We sent a lot of volunteers to various teams, whether it was for making phone calls, whether it was for curing ballots. I do know that when Gabe needed help curing ballots, the NRCC had already assembled a team, and I don't want to criticize Gabe. I think that by that point, Gabe had said that he was probably not working with the state party, and he was working with the NRCC and other organizations up in CD8. But yeah, there was extensive outreach for the candidates. There were 210 candidates, and on some of those weekly calls, I want to say there were 12 candidates, and then on other ones, there were 70, 80 candidates. So we did our best to offer those candidates outreach, and then, whether they chose to take that help or just go in another direction was up to them.
Talking with Darcy Schoening, candidate for Colorado Republican Party chair. If Dave Williams decides to stay in and run for another term, will you remain in the race and directly challenge him?
Well, that's a question that Dave's going to be addressing over the next week or two. And so I don't want to speak out of turn. I would like to let Dave speak on that first, and then I'll be willing to speak.
When is this decision going to be made? When is the vote?
Well, the vote's not until the State Central Committee meeting, which will be in late March. So obviously, as you know, we have inauguration coming up. I think you're attending that as well. So a lot of people are heavily focused on that right now. And Dave's a really busy person. He's got a lot of things going on. And Dave's a really good friend of mine. So I will say that, in no way should this be interpreted as a battle between Darcy and Dave. That's not what's happening here.
How would you grade Dave's leadership on a grade of like A, B, C, D, F of his leadership and your work within the current Republican Party?
How would I grade Dave's leadership and my work?
Yes.
I would say that as a leader, Dave has been really solid. I mean, not only has Dave led us to opt out, the lawsuit to opt out of the open primaries, but I mean, he has been one of the smartest people that I've ever worked for. And just personally, a lot of people see Dave as this big, scary figure and, somebody that's just yelling all the time. He's a really gentle, really nice person that even in my personal life, when I've had my ups and downs, he's somebody that I would say has always been there for me. And so it's easy for people to criticize those that are in positions of leadership, but until you've served in those roles, it's kind of hard to understand that no matter what you do, you're always going to get attacked from everywhere. You can't please everybody. So we just have to take our values and run forward with them and try to flip seats and do the best that we can for Colorado.
But do you think you could do a better job than Dave? I mean, is that why you're choosing to run, that you think you could lead the Republican Party better than he could or did?
No, I don't. I don't think that my running should be interpreted as I think I could do something better than Dave. I think it's obvious that Dave and I have a little bit different styles, and we have different things that we focus on. So that's a question for the voters. You know, do they believe that I do things that are decent and that move the party forward? And I think that the answer would be yes. I think you can ask all the counties. You can ask a lot of people, how often do they hear from Darcy? Is she working to do the things that we need to do? And the answer will be yes. And that's really the basis of all of this, is somebody who's willing to put the work in and somebody who wants to spend the time with the people.
Talking with Darcy Schoening, she's the current director of special initiatives for the Colorado Republican Party, has tossed her hat into the ring and is seeking to become the chairwoman of the Colorado Republican Party. Darcy, give me your top 3 priorities. What are you really going to work at and emphasize in order to help Republicans win more seats in upcoming elections?
Well, one of the major things that I learned in this last round of elections, especially as we created the candidate outreach initiative, was that the GOP over the last 10 to 20 years has not built a solid data infrastructure. They haven't built an infrastructure so that if, you know, Dave and Anna and Hope and I and whoever else were hit by a bus today, that the new administration could come in and say, okay, how do we flip school board seats in November? Who are the donors? You know, what does the data show for this county, that county? Where are our spreadsheets to show all the moving pieces? That does not exist by and large. So one of the things I'd like to focus on is technology and data. And we're looking at a technology summit coming up in the spring that Hope is helping with, and that'll be great. We're trying to get Alex Brusowitz out here. And then the second thing would be flipping as many seats as possible. That includes in 2025, those school board seats. We've got to do better than we did in the last school board election. And then my final priority, I would say, is really just fundraising, and then bringing everybody into the same umbrella of flipping seats, fundraising, and being a well-oiled machine, creating processes that we can implement and repeat over and over and hone and fine-tune as we need to.
Darcy Schoening, she's running for Colorado Republican chairwoman. You can follow her on X at Darcy, DARCY 4. That's the number 4, CO. Darcy 4CO on X, and she's very active there. Darcy, we wish you the very best of luck. Thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Continue to follow that. If Dave jumps in, we'll have Dave on the show as well. We had Britt on last week. Again, I don't get into the Civil War. I worked for the state party at one point. I hated the division within it. Even back in 2013, we'll ask tough questions. But I want people to be able to make their case, speak to our audience, and then we'll see what the active Republican Central Committee decides to do.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, because I've been very critical. I'm not a member of either party, but I've been very critical of both parties eating their own. And I don't think you gain much by trying to shrink the tent. I think the entire goal, especially in the general, is to expand the tent. So I think part of the first job of whoever is leading the party, be it Democrat or Republican or Green Party or who knows, is to get everybody who identifies under that moniker to work together, to understand you're all playing on the same team.
And that was part of the work I did with the Western Conservative Summit, was to keep a broad conservative coalition together. That's why when Dick Wadham slammed me I was like, what are you
I was surprised about that too.
Like, when he's like, I'm tired of you bad-mouthing establishment Republicans. I was like, wait, the ones I invite and give stage time at the summit? Like,
the ones I go to dinner with?
Talking about it. And I've written pieces, articles being like, country club Republicans bring something very important to the table. They bring finances. They bring stability. They're really, really important. Now, those people are typically not the ones that go and knock doors. So your grassroots Republicans, your blue collar conservative Republicans, are just as important. So you got to have them all at the table. So we'll have Dave on if he chooses to run again as well, or if he announces to go somewhere else. Dave's also welcome.
In fact, it's some ways that I look at it, and this is kind of a really bad analogy, but almost like concert goers. They're the young and the older concert goers. The older concert goers will pay the same amount the young concert goers do, but they'll be happy sitting at the back and sitting there and enjoying the show. Where the young people want to be up there dancing around and being in the mosh pit, and that's different. Exactly, and so you get those grassroots guys that gets in, guys and gals that get into the mosh pit and dance around and they make the noise. But you also have the people that are supporting the act that are also there paying their dues as far as entering that venue. They're sitting in the back and enjoying it. And you're all enjoying the same concert and you're all there for the same reason. And I think lately the Colorado GOP has forgotten that you're all there for the same reason and you're all trying to move the same direction. And maybe rowing the boat in the same direction helps.
Otherwise, you get the bagpiper that hasn't played with no experience whatsoever, just making it miserable for everybody. Which
absolutely.
Is progressives in total control.
Yeah. Or the progressives get to do things like open up needle exchanges within schools, and so that's going to be great. Yeah. So we're all talking about teamwork here, and we're talking about what happens when you can get things like the Colorado GOP working together. Now, I've got another great example for you. My friends at Balance WellSpace. I'm going to go see them later on today, and it's different than what you're experiencing in your current medical care because it's integrative medicine. That was something I had to learn about when I started working with Balance WellSpace. Integrative medicine, it means you get a whole bunch of treatments all at one location. Wave therapy, physical rehabilitation, regenerative care, neuropathic care, trigger point injections, chiropractic care, and a whole bunch of other just seriously cutting edge type of technology that really has to be seen to be believed. But the coolest part about it, non-invasive. They're not cutting you open. They're not adding anything to you. They're not taking anything out. They're using your body's own natural ability to heal, plus a whole bunch of super cool science. Things that we have learned in the past couple of decades and even are continuing to learn now about how your body can help heal itself. As we're speaking right now, I am regenerating the meniscus in my left knee. You remember that Star Trek movie where Dr. McCoy hands a woman a pill and she regrows a kidney, and later on he's walking back going, he gave me a pill and I regrow it. That's what I feel like. I feel like Balance WellSpace has given me the magic pill to regrow the meniscus in my knee and to also regenerate the disc in my lower back. My lower back has two vertebrae that are fusing together because of some stupid decisions I made as a younger kid. Yes, all on me. But now they're helping me get back to doing the things I wasn't doing anymore because of my constant pain and sciatica. It felt like I had a small Swiss Army knife stuck in my lower back every single day. It was not a matter of if I was going to hurt. It was only a matter of how much I was going to hurt. That's all gone. Balance WellSpace can do that for you as well, but you got to give them the chance. You go there, you get a personal pain evaluation. They put together a treatment plan for you. And here's the cool part. Every few weeks, they come back, check in with you, and they make sure that everything is getting you to where you want to be. Your current medical team, you may have a number of different doctor's offices you're visiting. They're not talking about you. They're not exchanging text messages, Zoom meetings. They're not doing emails about your treatment. They're not asking if all the treatment is working together to make sure you feel good. It's all siloed. That's the difference in integrative medicine. That's the difference that Balance WellSpace can make in your life. And I've got some new exciting stuff we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks. It's going on at Balance as well. Check them out today at balancewellspace.com. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. Plenty of parking. Check them out. Talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess. They're the people I trust, and I know they can take away the pain in your life and get you back to doing things you haven't done in years, just like they have for me. But in order to do that, take the first step. Make sure you're feeling the best you possibly can by the spring. They can do that for you, but you got to reach out first. BalanceWellSpace.com, BalanceWellSpace.com. And when you talk to them, tell them you heard about it here on the Jeff and Bill Show because it helps us out as well, and I appreciate it.
That's great to hear, Bill. So text messages coming in about Darcy. She seems pretty solid. I like her answer to the question. 8422 says, would she do a better job than Dave? And her answer immediately was no. I just have some different values and the voters should decide. So you had to pick today between Dave Williams, Darcy Schoening, or Britta Horn. Those are the three right now likely to be in. What do you think? Give us a call. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Campos Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader. We are News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So, Bill, I got this poll I put up yesterday, probably the most responded to poll ever. 1,500 votes.
Should Bill be voted off the show?
No comment.
Yes, exactly.
No comment.
Yeah, what is it?
Would you take your family to downtown Denver?
Oh, okay. Been there, done that over the holiday season. We went down there to watch the drone show. So, yeah, I would. I would go ahead and take them down there. However, though, I watch everything. I'm not like, antenna aren't always up, but it just, I grew up near downtown Denver.
Dude, you tough, man.
Yeah.
Ain't
Not tough. It's just a matter of understanding that,
I saw those
you got to watch for
pictures.
you got to watch for the crazy. And so that's it. When I'm in third grade, riding the rough, tough and dirty, public transportation to school, you just have to be aware. So it's kind of that idea of it. I mean, what would the poll say though? What were people saying about taking their family downtown?
Well, you're part of the 4%. Say yes.
That's usually where I sit.
96% say no. Here's some of the comments on that.
Yeah.
Kevin Jones saying, I tend to stick to the 14th and Market Street, Larimer Square.
Yeah,
and the
that's
theater
solid.
district. Forays to Capitol Hill to visit the Catholic Cathedral haven't resulted in any problems, but my head's on a swivel. And some restaurants there haven't been rebuilt since 2020 arson. Another one, I took my wife to a concert in the summer of 2023, but we're constantly approached for money, and it was dirty and gross. We aren't going back there until it changes.
Interesting. And the other one is, I see the idea of the 14th and Market getting on the Larimer Street. That to me is the softer side of downtown. We get closer to, you get kind of, there's like a break, and then you get closer to the ballpark on the other side, and then it kind of breaks free again. So there's kind of that middle section that where 16th Street Mall sits that gets a little sketch sometimes.
Downtown Denver is deadly unsafe, not for families, not going to go there. I prefer to avoid it myself, let alone take my family, Sean writes.
Yeah.
This one had a big response. Hell no, says Moose.
Wow.
I'm not taking my family down there. There's absolutely, this is Denver software development guy.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no reason to go downtown, not even going to a concert. Rockies game would motivate me to bring anyone downtown.
And I guess here's the other part, though. I have to admit that me taking my family downtown is different than most other people taking other people downtown. And I'm not saying that my family is different. I'm just saying we are a large family. We got 4 kids.
Okay.
So there are 6 of us. And that's different when you're talking about someone that is homeless or someone that has some negative intent. Approaching 6 people is totally different than approaching 2 or 3. And so I think in part of the reason that I would feel safer with my family is because we are 6. I talk about the fact that when we all get on our bikes, we're a damn motorcycle gang. I mean, you're going somewhere and you see, and you see 6 people. Yeah. Well, it's my chaps. Yes. No, I'm kidding. This could go so bad. But the idea of, you turn the corner and 6 bicycles come around and start coming at you where you're going down the walking path on the park. And all of a sudden it's 6 bicycles. That's different than 1 or 2 or 3. So I do think in part that my family, we are artificially safe, and I acknowledge it because of numbers, and that might be why I would feel safer going downtown than others.
Well, while there's debate as to whether or not to take your family downtown, everybody agrees that advanced hair restoration is the place to go to address your hair loss. Look, if the last couple of years have taught us one thing, it's that you need to value what you can control, and addressing hair loss is no exception. Our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration can reverse years or even decades of hair loss with their simple one-day treatment. Your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guarantee. It works for bald spots, receding hairlines, thinning hair. Men, women, younger, wiser, Advanced Hair can address many different patterns of hair loss. Advanced Hair's top-rated physicians, like Dr. Tanya Pauls, have changed tens of thousands of people's lives. Saw a great ad the other day from Advanced Hair. They were looking at Elon Musk thinning hair at one point. Now he's got a great head of hair. Ben Affleck, thinning hair at one point, now has a great head of hair. Matthew McConaughey, thinning hair, now has a great head of hair. It happens to us, guys, so why not get it addressed? And it could change every aspect of your life. So schedule your free consultation by calling 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. And to celebrate the new year, Get special financing, 250 free hair grafts, and $250 off. Value the things you can control and start regrowing your own natural hair today. That's 720-459-HAIR, or become inspired with the before and after pictures at advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. See the text messages here, 8422. The problem with walking around in downtown areas is that every crook down there knows that you're not armed. Dude, that is a great segue to a question I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Like,
what?
should they just allow concealed carry back downtown?
I don't know. Here's the thing is, from what I understand, I don't know all the details of the stabbings that went on, but from what I have read, I'm not convinced that concealed carry would have stopped anything, because it seemed like these were more attacks from either behind, the side. It wasn't like the person came up, pulled the knife, and was 4 feet from me and went, aha, give me the money. Aha. That it seemed to be more random, and it didn't even seem to be an assault with the goal of taking anything from you. It was just based on a random assault. So I'm not convinced that a concealed carry weapon in that situation would have been necessarily safe. I'm not certain it would have stopped anything.
I disagree, as you can imagine, on this one. I think it sends a strong message also to school shooters out there when you arm teachers, that there is a good person nearby that's going to respond with a pew-pew. And we all know this is what stops bad guys, is a good person with a gun. And the further they are away, when they're police and you have to call them and it takes time for them to respond, that allows the bad guy intent on doing damage more time to do so. So I think, yes, concealed carry, absolutely 100% would send a strong message to folks like this that, you're definitely rolling the dice. But give us a call. Where do you stand on this? Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. Would the city of Denver be safer? Would you bring your family down if you were allowed to conceal carry in some of these places like the 16th Street Mall, where maybe you're not allowed to now? Would love to hear from you. Phone text lines open as well. The Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. That's 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader. This is News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So, Bill, the Denver Post reporting here that Colorado's public school enrollment continues to fall down to an 11-year low. But immigrant students are helping fill classrooms. They saw a 2.5% increase after the arrival of thousands, to the tune of, I think it was 4,000 immigrant students joining Denver public schools.
Yeah.
Does that what does that do to you?
It's
What does that tell you?
two things. One, I think it shows, well, one, demographic trends based on, Colorado and birth rates and things, also shows that more people are making different choices, going to other educational opportunities, which I think, is always fair, and they should. I view the immigrant population coming in as a challenge, but I also view it as a positive. And here's why I view it as a positive. The one thing that has been a moan and complain that I kind of agree with are the idea of immigrants coming to our country and not integrating themselves into the society. I can find one of the best ways for them to integrate into our society by getting involved in our educational system, because the kids get involved in learning the language and get involved with how our society functions. They start looking at basic social norms. They can help parents navigate. The other thing is that many times with immigrant communities, that school becomes the focal point of their point of contact for the entire community, because it's the place in which they trust, because their child is going there, and they reach out to the school and help them connect with other things inside of that community. So if you want these immigrants to integrate as quickly as possible into American society, getting their kids into school, to me, is one of the top 3 priorities for good outcome on the other end. So I think that overall, it's a positive.
Here's my concern, and it stems from Barb Kirkmeyer's conversation on our show here about the amount of money that these schools are now having to spend on English as a second language, ESL. Okay, so if I'm a parent and I'm concerned about the educational quality, and my school is having to spend a lot of money, time, and resources on ESL. And I'm not saying these kids shouldn't be educated. I'm not saying that we need to keep them out of the schools, but that is a concern. It's going to draw away from the focus on my kids and their educational needs when we're having to put additional funding, additional resources into ESL things. So are they getting the best attention they need to be?
Well, here's the thing: it depends for me. Have you been voting for those mill levy raises? Have you been voting for those property tax increases that would fund the schools? If you're saying no, then I would push back and say, if you're not voting to raise the support and the taxes that are going to the educational system in your own community, then you're going to get the outcomes that you're going to vote for. And I don't think if you want those immigrant kids to, again, be integrated into the society, they have to go through that and learn English. That's one of the things is we hear, if we talk about immigration, we'll have 1 or 2 text messages, 1 or 2 calls a morning that say, they got to learn English. They come here and they don't learn English. That's how they learn English immediately. And the kids will bring it home. And because the dominant language, the kids will make the parents speak the language. They're going to help. They're an assistance. So that's what it should be. So for me, that extra money should be an investment into making sure these kids do well. And if you're concerned about the outcomes, raise the taxes on yourself and give the schools more funding.
Taxes for you, isn't it?
It's the only way I think that we can get the money. My daughter, who's 18, works as a teacher's assistant in the Cherry Creek public school system right now in an elementary school. They have 31 different languages spoken in the school. 31. 700 kids in the school. 31 different languages. But each and every one of those kids, by God, wants to be an American.
But good news in this report, homeschooling up 4.5%. There you go, baby. All right. If you missed any of the show, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is why we are Denver's talk leader. This is News Talk 710 KNUS.